Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Welcome to this Carroll County Chamber of Commerce Day in Carroll County here. Beautiful day. I'll call this meeting March 1st, 2018 to order. It's at 6 o'clock. And we will have our invocation by Council Member Verlin Best, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Bow your head, please. Please bless this meeting and all participants involved. Please allow all parties to be friends and professional as we conduct the business of the city. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, we have our ceremonial presentations up first, and it is indeed an honor for me to turn the mic over to our city clerk, Miss Elisa Doyle. We have some distinguished, honored guests here with us today. And while she's making her way up, this is one of the things, if y'all remember when I ran for mayor, I'm very involved in our young people and particularly how it affects government and our local community. And I told these young folks before y'all came that when I see young people like this that are so committed to what they're doing in school, it really makes me feel good about the future, because I'm not going to be doing this forever. And obviously somebody's going to have to take over the wheel. So thank you all for being here. So without further ado.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I have some very special guests with me this afternoon that I want to introduce you. I'm going to call your names up in just a minute, so if you'll come up and have your picture made with Mayor Reese so I can get that back to your sponsor. But first, let me explain why these guests are here. I have 3 students who are members of the Billerica High School Beta Club, and they are here today as my city clerk assistants. The reason why we are doing this because next week is the 49th annual Municipal Clerks Week that's sponsored by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. It's also endorsed, of course, by the state of Georgia and all over the world, Canada and 19 other countries. The event recognizes the essential role that clerks play in local government, and they have different names for it: city clerk, municipal clerk, or town clerk. And if you did not know this profession actually traces back before biblical times. It goes all the way back to ancient Greece. They actually had a city secretary. And if you go to your New Testament in the Bible, the book of Acts, chapter 19:25, you will read about a town clerk or a chief man of the city, whatever interpretation of the Bible you're reading. Well, that person is actually that city clerk or town clerk. And it's some of the things I do, plus much more technology nowadays. So to promote this event, my project was to invite the senior members of the Billerica High School Beta Club. Since they are seniors, they're about to get out on their own. They're all 3 going to college, and they can get introduced to local government and perhaps get involved in their communities one day. So I call them my city clerk assistants. They got here at 5 today and have actually helping me set up the meeting. So I'm going to call each one of you up, and let me introduce them. If you'll come on up so I can get your picture made. First, let me introduce, this is the lady that took care of our agendas out front. Her name is Mama Adu. So if you'll come on up, Mama. And Mama, you're planning on going to, where? Kennesaw State College. Then we also have Angel Carroll. She's helping me with the laptop today. She is bound for the University of Auburn.
Yeah.
And then we have Brendan Drake. He's going to take care of our 3-minute timer, so if you get up here for public comments, he may cut you off. He is going to go to Georgia Southern for mechanical engineering. Correct? I said that correct. So, anyway, if Mayor Reese, if you could come down and have your photo made with us.
I am, but I'm going to tell you the defining moment in talking to these young people before the meeting started, when I asked them the colleges, when this young man said he was going to Georgia Southern. I said, oh, they have a great sports program down there, sports management and all that. And he said, I'm taking mechanical engineering.
Don't say that real loud.
I'm not sure if this will come up or not.
I think y'all can hear me. Rather than go back up there and come back down, we are also honored to have with us today Officer Paul Lewis. Officer, if you would come up, Mr. Lewis, or Officer Lewis has been with us 5 years. I'm not gonna say anything bad about him, but he's longer than I am.
And he got a gun and a badge.
Captain Parker's gonna come up with us, so if you'll make the presentation.
Village Police Department has been with us for 5 years. We issued a new badge, a new badge. I will say that Paul has harassed me more than any of them. Badge order.
Good job, Paul. Harass them some more.
Need your assistance up there.
Quicker than one of the kids can do it,
I'm gonna ask Officer Walker's family to come up. I just happened to notice that a lot of kids and folks back there, so let's get a photo of him with his family. You got Lisa?
They may need directions where.
Remember them by making staple. Can you imagine? Just tapped and it come back on. And it goes and it makes me put the password. I have to just start it up.
It is always a pleasure to recognize our employees. We are only as good as our employees who serve our public out there on the streets and everyday service, so thank you to all those who serve our citizens and our community well. Moving on to adoption of the agenda, I would ask that we make one change in the agenda, and this was actually brought to my attention by a council member. And what I'm asking is that we put council updates henceforth and from now on after public comments. And I want to just do a little disclaimer on that. This is not an attempt for any of us to engage in any conversation or to answer directly any comments that are made during public comment. However, if there is a chance for a council person to correct, and that's probably a bad word, but to respond to a question that's asked of the person that's speaking, then I would like them to have an opportunity to do that. So we're going to try that for a while and see how that works. So any other changes in the agenda?
I would make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
As amended.
Have a motion.
A second.
Have a motion by Councilmember McDougal, seconded by Councilmember Carter to approve the agenda as written. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Council update, I'm sorry, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The beginning of the update typically talks about what's going on with our relationship with GDOT. It's on. One of the things that we've talked about is the lighting on exit 24, which is on the agenda tonight. We've had numerous conversations about the North Loop, but no change in that funding situation. A question has been asked about.
We've got people that are saying they cannot hear or they can barely hear. Is there something we can do with that mic? Well, he's close.
Try this. Is that any better? No?
It's a little better.
All right. So another question that's been raised is whether or not we have been notified by GDOT that we have a design for both of the many roundabouts that we've talked about. So the roundabout at 61 in Punkintown has been designed. The one at 101 Industrial in Rockmart has not. The one at Punkintown is waiting on us. We have to acquire temporary easements, and Bobby has obtained the services of a surveyor to help us with that. We also need to relocate some utilities in that intersection, and Pete is working with Carter and Sloop on that. We have also had recently a meeting with the traffic engineer and the pre-construction engineer who came down and reviewed a couple of the options that we had for relieving downtown of truck traffic. They didn't like either one of our options, but have presented us with a third, so we're pursuing that. The water treatment plant improvements that council approved recently have resulted in a project kickoff meeting, which was held on April the 19th. The lift station analysis, which you approved, is also underway, and Pete, if I'm correct, Elio has started work on the Liberty Pool water improvement project that you've approved. You've also probably heard, if you've not heard it from me directly, maybe indirectly, but for everybody else's benefit, one of the projects that was conducted prior to my arrival was a CDBG project in the Dorsey, South Carroll area to try to improve water pressure. I don't know, 14, 12, I can't remember, 2012. And that project had just mixed results and impacts. One of the things that we've done recently is we've taken that Sunset tank offline, but another thing that has happened more recently is we have discovered a buried valve on the 12-inch line near Tanyard and Leslie, which is sort of down at the entrance going into Powell Park. And that valve was turned off completely, and so as we figure out the impact of that, opening that back up, we're thinking that we're going to see a significant pressure improvement on that side of town. Going down to road improvements now, C.W. Matthews is finished with paving and has a little bit more striping to do, and that project will be complete. We did the project list except for Community Square Boulevard because we never reached the point where we acquired ownership of that road. So there is some money left in that project, and so staff is working on a smaller list of resurfacing jobs as well as some pothole repair work that we might bring back to council for approval as a smaller project for some of those available funds. We've not heard any response since the last meeting from either one of the water authorities who we've been negotiating with. One of the issues that we talked about last time were the traffic islands or the bulbs on West Wilson, and that's on the agenda tonight. We talked about health screenings last time, and those screenings were held at Powell Park on April the 4th. Staff still have an opportunity who chose not to participate to go to their regular doctor and do the lab work through their MD. That deadline is this Friday. The group that does our audit, Malden and Jenkins, has been in City Hall since April the 23rd doing the field work on the audit. They should be finished tomorrow with the field work. And then we've participated in a number of meetings in the last month. We've held a leadership luncheon that was very well attended. Kelvin Hill from Sugar Foods was the speaker. Several of you were there. That was a very, very positive meeting. We've had developers from mostly the Carrollton area who have met with us recently about a project on Highway 61. We've had an opportunity to go to Athens, to the University of Georgia, to accept an award that came sort of through Georgia Trend and sort of through Carl Vinson, Call 4 for the Future, that Chris was instrumental in. We've had a public meeting that many of you attended on the walking trail. We've had another one on the comp plan. We had active shooter training, which a couple of you attended at City Hall. We've recently had a meeting with Flowers Baking about their sewer bill and some of the changes that we made, so we'll be giving you some more information about that soon. And we've had a couple of developers of apartments approach us, and we have met with one of them face to face, so we'll be bringing you information about that as those projects develop. And we have several issues or projects or items coming up. We have a budget work session on May the 3rd, Powell Park, 8 o'clock. We have a second one the following Thursday on May the 10th. We have a volunteer appreciation banquet this Saturday at Gold Dust. The mayor and I are attending a meeting hosted by Carroll County's chairman that is attended by most of the mayors and managers in the county. And we have a road trip coming up. So Friday, May the 11th, we're going to go visit 3 downtowns. We're going to go to Duluth, Swanee, and Sugar Hill. So I hope you can all make that trip. That's my report for this month.
Tom, do you want to, I don't see it on the agenda, do you want to give us an update on the annexation issue with Douglas County?
At this point in time, the only information that I'm aware of is that DCA has gotten involved and that we are working the process through DCA now. So we as staff have not taken any steps since since Thursday night, or since David briefed us at the last work session.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we did not engage DCA, nor did Douglas County. That's something that the state puts in place so that the property owner that made the request has a chance for arbitration between the city and the county.
Yes, we did not initiate that.
Okay. And I just want to kind of piggyback on something that was said about Chris Pike. When we went and accepted that award in Athens, which is, it's always good to be in Athens, but but we don't have that trophy, and y'all know I'm very competitive, so Chris is getting a copy of that trophy. So, Madam Clerk, if you would make sure that when that trophy comes in, if y'all will get with us, I want that trophy to be presented, because Chris did a lot of hard work on that, and I want to see that he gets recognized for that. So, okay.
Tom, did you mention May the 8th, our trip down to the governor's office?
I did not. I put this together before that happened. So, what day is that? Next Tuesday? Next Tuesday at, did I say 9 o'clock?
Yep.
The governor is signing House Bill 1031, I think it is, which is the charter. We're all invited. We've invited the city attorney, but he's out of town. But the rest of us need to go down if possible.
What's that date?
It's a week from today.
Yeah.
9 o'clock
Mhm.
at the governor's office, and we're going to try to ride together. So if you can coordinate with Elisa, we'll try to get to City Hall, maybe 5:30 or so we
Yeah,
can beat
exactly.
traffic, and get down there by 9 o'clock.
I would suggest that we take the Humvee from the police department since it'll be rush hour. We might actually get there.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we will move into the public comments portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to give public comments, please move forward at this time, come to the podium, and state your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and we do have a timer in place, so we're going to...
Hi, my name is Brian Britt. I live at 9500 East Tyson Road. I'm on the Douglas County side of Villa Rica. For those of you that don't know me, I'd like to put a name to the face, or a face to the name. I'm the guy looking for the new ordinance to allow me to open a new craft brewery in town. So that's city council. City council's supposed to, I guess, zoning and planning is trying to come up with something. So I just wanted to introduce myself so you know who the bad guy is.
Thank you, sir.
Anyway, any questions for me? Thanks.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Sledge. I live at 233 Millville Drive. I'm here on behalf of the analyzation for Tyson and Pool Road. Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Valerie Sledge. I live at 233 Millville Drive. I'm here on behalf of the analyzation for Tyson and Pool Road. I have questions and concerns. My first concern is no one notified us of that analyzation. We saw these little yellow signs on the side of the road. No, it was homemade, and we had to get out the car and look at them like, what's going on here? What is this? Okay, there was several dates on the sign. I think the first one was April 1st, April 29th, and then May 1st. And then we came down to the city, talked to Lanice, who gave us one date. We called her office. No answering machine, so we couldn't leave a message. We came down and talked with her again, and we couldn't get a hold of her. So we was like, what's going on? The meeting kept getting canceled. We was on the agenda, we were off the agenda, on the agenda, off the agenda, up until last night, up until yesterday. So here we are. Okay, my concern is, as you know, this Pool Road is like London Bridge. It's not falling down, it's broke down. It's a one way in, one way out. Okay. We have all these subdivisions back there. Matter of fact, we have 4. I happen to live in the Weatherstone subdivision. I was told that someone contacted the people on Weststone Way to let them know that something was going to occur, but what, they wasn't aware of it, wasn't sure about it. So Weststone Way does not define the Weatherstone. I happen to live in the Weatherstone, all the way in the back on Millville Drive. So we wasn't aware of what was going on. Okay, you also have Creekview, Luther Mills, the Waterton. Okay, Weatherstone has approximately 180 houses with 2-car garages. That's 400 cars, approximately 400 cars. Creekview has 97 homes, 2-car garages. That's approximately 200 cars. Luther Mills, 50 cars, 50 homes, approximately 100 cars, 2-car garages. Waterton, 50 homes, 2-car garages, another 100 cars. You're talking about putting up 76 homes, 2-car garages, 150 cars. That's over 1,000 cars up and down a 2-lane in and out subdivision with all cul-de-sacs. Now when you factor in school buses, when you factor in emergency vehicles, when you factor in delivery trucks, visiting people to come in and out of town, visiting you, staying in, staying out. When you factor in the homes that has at least 4 cars, which a lot of people in our subdivision have 4 cars. That's not fair to us. That's not fair to us. And then you have a gas line that runs through there. A fire, we become an inferno. How are we going to get out of there? I mean, we're not asking for something that's impossible. We're just asking for the city to be fair to us. And then when you factor in our police department, which I love my Captain Park over here. Come on. That's not fair to them. We don't know what kind of neighbors we're going to get. And we're not talking about the best of homes that they're going to build right there. You're talking about 76 homes in that little teeny space with 3 cul-de-sacs, because I have a picture of it. That's not fair to the police department.
Ma'am, if you could be wrapping your comments up. Your
My
the
time's
timer's,
up?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your services.
You're welcome. Ma'am, and let me just say this, the city manager, hopefully you've left your information so that we can get in touch with you,
I can leave my email on the way out.
because we want to make sure that you have the correct information. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Good evening, council. Just wanted to start off and say, I've met a few of you guys and met with some of the folks on the staff and really appreciate the job y'all are doing. I know it's really hard balancing growth and making the right decisions in a city like Villa Rica. And, you guys I think you guys all have their good intentions and are trying to do the best job you can. So I thank you for that. I was coming to speak in regards to the proposed annexation of the parcel at 34.75 acres. I hope that because you guys are not pursuing the mediation with DCA, that means you guys are not following up and pushing that issue. I've spoken to many of the citizens in Villa Rica, over 50 have signed a petition opposing the project, and I've got a number of reasons why that are basically mirroring your UDO code that would be part of the planning review. But overall, I'd like to add that the majority of the citizens I talked to have really valued the intangible quality of the undeveloped spaces of Villa Rica, and that as you guys balance smart growth and economic development, that you preserve that, because so many of the people I talk to find that to be one of the foundational things of life in Villa Rica. So let me just start off and say that so water moving across the parcel of 34.75 acres flows into the Dog River Basin. The county of Douglas County derives their drinking water from that basin, as does the city of Douglasville, and I believe it's the city of Villa Rica's intention to potentially enter into an agreement to purchase water from that basin, if the terms are good for and amicable for the county or for the city. And so, given that, I think that the city should, keep their development ordinance in accordance with Douglas to protect that source of drinking water. The proposed parcels are not currently within the Villa Rica future land use map, zoning map, or urban growth area boundary. In the Villa Rica Comprehensive Plan from 2005, it was stated that the city does not intend to offer future water and sewer service outside the urban growth area. The proposed annexation and rezoning is not consistent and in furtherance of the implementation and goals of the comprehensive plan. Villa Rica and Douglas County agreed previously that they would never expand the urban growth area until 2032. Those agreements should be respected as it pertains to the proposed annexation rezoning. Additionally, the proposed annexation and rezoning fails to consider many issues of importance. There's a detailed list of those in the letter that was provided and signed by over 50 of your citizens. There is no community need or benefit arising from the proposed rezoning. The homes already in the neighborhood, or many of which are in foreclosure, and the city is struggling to provide adequate sewer and water to those homes. Additionally, there's large amounts of existing housing stock in Villa Rica that's beyond its useful life and would be suitable for infill development. There's over, could I plead to the council for a few more minutes if we're done?
We try to limit to 3 minutes. There are other people waiting, so in the interest of time, but if you would leave your remark, you're certainly welcome to come back to any future council meeting, and this has not gone to planning and zoning yet, so it'll have to do all that before the council ever takes it up, if they ever get to that point.
Thank you for
So,
your time. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And again, appreciate the job you guys are doing.
thank you.
I forgot the rules and didn't sign in, and as I came in, considering I was laying in the OR table twice in 2 months ago, I had back surgery. I'm just bracing for just for show. Thank you very much, Larry Kors, to address you tonight on two simple issues. It's a technical issue. On the last page of the development regulation, in paragraph 1205.4, that the inclusion of the term peace officer, counselor, be included as it, so we'll have We won't have any confusion about who is eligible to enforce the regulation and who is not. On the conditional use that you're going to have tonight, it's going to be about barking dogs, is my topic. There was an awful lot of discussion last night in planning and zoning about the restriction of time of the business operator or owner to operate their business and severe limitations on the types of business activities that are going to be permitted in the facility. If we were to look in the rest of downtown and apply the barking dog statute, then I want to know how you're going to keep the cattle, sheep, the goats, and the pigs, and all the rest of the wildlife that we're allowing and permitting in downtown. How are you going to keep them quiet from 9 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock the next morning? Oh, don't forget the chickens and the rooster that's going to get in too. So we should really think long and hard about having a animal ordinance for downtown before we get into nitpicking. And my last point is, Madam Clerk, I request a copy of the financial budget for the meeting in 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kurt Kraft, 2406 Ridge Lake Drive. Wow, we got a buzzer now for 3 minutes. I love it. In the past few weeks, Mayor Reese and the Economic Development Manager for the Downtown Villa Rica Development Group hosted a gold shovel event which announced the expansion of a local industrial manufacturer. While I applaud the success and expansion of the company, I'm a little embarrassed at the actions of our mayor. This company is located in one of the industrial parks that's managed by the Villa Rica Development Authority, of which I'm the chairman. The state of Georgia, not Jeff Reese, set up this authority to represent and market the city of Villa Rica in its assigned territory. The Villa Rica Authority and Carol Tomorrow organization, who markets for the city of Villa Rica, were not notified and were ignored. After learning of this, a few weeks after the event, I paid a visit to the company. When I asked if any of the normal incentives were offered, like assistance with job training or tax credits, the company said that none were offered by the city officials that were present. But don't worry, folks, because I've been doing it for 12 years, I got a hold of the proper people and everything's squared away. So not knowing what was discussed, you guessed it, I'm filing an open records request on all the information pertaining to that meeting. And whatever it was. And now for my recent favorite, I passed around the articles that was put in by the Times-Georgian about the infamous Butterball property. I couldn't believe it when I saw that the city was actually considering demolishing it and putting a road through it to alleviate truck traffic. Before the city lost its funding from the DOT, that was what the northern bypass was for. Instead of wasting all that money and time at the DOT, we could have gone through the toxic site where the Welcome Center was to alleviate the truck traffic. And I thought the Welcome Center was the cornerstone of the Renaissance plan that we spent thousands of dollars on. And the time and the efforts of the Downtown Development Authority, Main Street, and per Councilman Leslie McPherson, hundreds of people who participated in the process have just gone to waste. So to help out, I'm going to make a following suggestion to kill two birds with one stone. Let's move Butterballs with its $67,000 roof that they just put on. Let's move it up to Pine Mountain and let the cows, the pigs, and the mules up there have a real shelter for a change. And as far as the road going through Butterballs, if you need any help, I still have my Hot Wheels tracks back at the house, and we can do a loop-the-loop instead of a northern loop. So thank you very much, and since we have some students present, I guess, should I hand them the open records request to give them their first opportunity? Thank you. She did good.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Isaac Robinson, 130 Alton Circle. And I just wanted to bring to the attention of the council as being a 2016 candidate
for mayor, the political signs that we have up, particularly between 78 and Westview, the amount of signs that we have there, and the fact that we have political signs there anyway. In 2016, my signs were removed because I was told that was city property. At this point, we have the city signs and we have a slew of political signs there. So when code enforcement removed the sign, I'm just curious to find out if this is private property, or are we having code enforcement work for private citizens and removing the signs. 2016, my signs were removed because they said it was private, it was city property. I did a request to find out who owns the property, and I was told that it is privately owned. So we do have city signs there, and we do have political signs there. So I just wanted to bring it to you guys' attention of this particular location to make sure if it's private property or city property. And if it's city property, okay, but if it's private property, are we having city work for a private individual to remove signs? Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, if you haven't already done so, can you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Ashley Grizzle, and I'm here to speak about the annexation of the land on Pool Road from Douglas County into the city of Villa Rica. I just wanted to speak again to a couple of things that other people have already said. One of those is I'm confused as to why we would want to tear down some beautiful green space when we have an existing surplus of, I think, close to 1,000 stubbed-in lots that already have water, sewer, and power and are undeveloped growing weeds, like bringing down values in neighborhoods. I would love to see us try to focus on maybe doing some development in those. And as it speaks to the city plan, I know you guys had wanted, I think it's 10,000, or no, excuse me, I think it's 200 new houses a year for development. With a surplus of 1,000, that's 5 years worth of development if we attacked some of these vacant lots that are a little bit of an eyesore and also kind of look economically sad. So I'd love to see maybe a focus on that instead of tearing down virgin land and a farm that's been, you know, in the area for years and years. Also, I do know, I would speak to the woman that was here from Whetstone Way area. The road, Pool Road, doesn't meet existing standards. And the streetscape design is not even close to being able to support the cars that are already there. So I definitely think adding 72 houses with, you know, 2 cars apiece is definitely going to create more of a problem for that area. Also, I would encourage citizens to read the Villa Rica from April 2018, and it speaks to the city's sewer issues. And I know it's been really difficult because we've had 10 different city managers over the last 12 years, and I'm excited that Tom Barber is doing a good job, and I hope he stays long enough to grab a hold of the problems, because I imagine that's a really daunting task. And so I'm really grateful that someone's trying so hard to get that going. I know that can't be easy. And, you know, so I just want to reiterate by saying I would love to see that zoning not happen. And while I am in Douglas County, Villa Rica is still my city. And so it really means a lot to me to know that the people that do get to vote here, you know, and I know I don't, but I hope you still listen to the people that consider Villa Rica their city, even if they're not in the county or the city area where they get to vote. So.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm gonna write my name.
Mayor and City Council, Mr. Barber, Mr. Mecklin, my name's Alan Gaston. I live at 403 Shady Valley Drive, Carrollton. I've spent about $100,000 18 years ago of building a billboard structure on the city of Villa Rica's property, and did the same thing on Louise and Bobby Dobbs' property. And I also spent another $20,000 on the city of Villa Rica's property to build a bridge and a road to get to the billboard structure on the Villa Rica's property, which is pretty much landlocked between the DOT's property and a creek. And I wanted to get a longer lease on this property, but the city manager at the time was Steve Russell, and he said, "Don't worry about a longer lease, that I'll be here forever." And pretty much the only arrangement that the city has on this property is that they have to maintain the bridge and maintain cutting the grass to the billboard structure, and I pay them a certain amount per month. The city is already cutting grass on the sewer easement and the water easement, and then my structure is just 50 yards off of where they're already cutting. What I'm asking for tonight for the city council to consider is that the Georgia Department of Transportation allows you to cut trees on the right-of-way, but if your structure is over 75 feet, which mine is, you have to lower your structure to 75 feet. The city of Villa Rica's ordinances won't allow me to lower my structure, so I won't be able to cut the trees in front of my structure and Louise and Bobby Dobbs' structure. What I'm asking for the city, there's a form you can sign that allows you to be able to cut trees and leave your structure at that same height. So I'd like to ask the city if they would consider signing this form tonight for the city of Villa Rica's structure and Bobby and Louise Dobbs' structure. And also I'd like to work with the city manager on a new lease with the city to work out what needs to be done in the lease, and then to present that before the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, y'all have this 3 minutes down. As soon as that timer's going off, y'all are, that's pretty impressive.
Good evening, council members. My name is Wesley Whitener. I live at 635 South Street. I came to y'all last month about an idea of a tiny home, and I think that the tiny home would be a good thing for disabled people. Give us a chance to own their own home. I would like the city council to consider my idea and get back to me, see if this would be a good idea to put it in the city of Villa Rica, since you already have one here on East Wilson Street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
I live at 2943 Tyson Road. More? Okay, there we go. Sorry. My name is Leanne Tyson. I live at 2943 Tyson Road. I am here to speak against the zoning and the new subdivision. This is not my first battle here in Villa Rica. I did petition against one before on Harold Road, as some of you may remember. I work for Douglas County Tax Assessor's Office. I have seen what too many homes in one area can do. It's just not good. I just urgently request that you please consider this. 2-story slab homes on quarter-acre lots, half-acre lots, whichever is it's proposed, it's just too much. They do wind up in foreclosure. They do wind up run down. They end up in other ways that's just not good for the community, the city, the county, or anything. So I'm just opposed, and I just hope and pray that y'all will hear us on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Right on time. Anybody else? Well, what a great group. I hope y'all show up every month. I love to see the room full like this. This is really good. Okay, seeing no more public comment, we will close that portion of the meeting. We will go to our next section, which is council updates.
I have just a couple things. A few shout outs. The Jazz Fest, at least from my perspective and the time I came, was a super event. that we had this past Saturday in Villa Rica. And what a good job they did putting that on. Also, that morning was Sugar Foods 5K, which was a superb event. I think we should turn out 3 or 4 times the amount of people there, because I've been to a lot of road races in my life when I could run, and the amenities and everything there. I mean, that was a quality event. And just real quick update on the animal control ordinance that I'm working with some others on. It's a county ordinance, but it would affect us here in Villa Rica because we're in the county, and that's who handles our animal control. Humane Society is a big part of working on that, and meeting with one of the judges who handles those type of cases, of figuring out how to do the wording so that we can better protect some of the pets in Carroll County, especially when it has to do with extreme temperatures. As cold as we are in the winter, as hot as it is in the summer, what type of shelter and that sort of thing. They expect that by June, there will be, the wording will be put together for the ordinance and be ready for the county commission. That's not set in stone, but that's what they're shooting for. Oh, I could answer something about that political sign if you care, or should we just wait and let staff deal with it?
I think we should let staff look at that. Anybody else? I just want to make a thank you all for coming tonight, those of you that came from Douglas County about the annexation issue, and I would just ask that our city manager, perhaps in his city manager report or part of city happenings, if y'all are not a part of that newsletter, I would just like for y'all to be a part of that newsletter, because it is our best way, I think, anyway, of getting the word out, except through the papers. Nothing against our papers. But I do think that it's important that you know where the process is throughout this process. And not the least of those is the city did not ask to annex this property. The landowner came to the city. But all that needs to be cleared up in a briefing or something that's published so that everybody will know.
And just to add to that, Mr. Mayor, this is the first time the city has gone through this annexation arbitration process. It doesn't happen much across the entire state, so we are learning as we go. I don't anticipate that there will be anything immediate on this. We have to go through the state mandated process, which requires us to participate in a arbitration process, mediation arbitration process through the Department of Community Affairs. That may take some time. We'll try and do the very best we can to keep the public informed as to how the process is going, so that you will know when the appropriate hearings are going to be held, when the annexation is actually considered, if it ever gets to the point of actually being considered.
Thank you, David. Anybody else? Okay. We will move on to the consent agenda, and for those of you that are not familiar with what a consent agenda, a consent agenda is a single item that encompasses all things the city council would normally approve with little comment. Each of these items was discussed at the Thursday date. I told her I wouldn't do that, but I had to do. At the Thursday, April 26, 2018 council work session, and it was a unanimous consensus of the governing body to place the following items on the consent agenda. Item number 1, refund of duplicate water tap fees. Item number 2, amendment to ordinance providing for the better collection and administration of the hotel motel tax. Item number 3, renewal of Georgia Interlocal Risk Government Agency, which is GERMA, for property and liability insurance for 2018-2019. Number 4, health scope plan summary document. Number 5, preventive maintenance contract for lift stations. And number 6, professional services agreement with Jasmine Jackson.
I move to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Have a motion made by Councilmember Carter, seconded by Councilmember Best to approve the consent agenda as written. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous. Tab A, governing body. First item is item number 1, approval of minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the April the 3rd, 2018 meeting, and hopefully everybody's had a chance since Thursday to look at those. I would entertain a motion to either amend or approve.
Make a motion to approve the April 3rd, 2018 minutes.
Second.
Have a motion by, do you get that? Okay. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Item number 2, discussion of city manager evaluation. And I
Mr.
believe-
Mayor, I think I've sent a copy of the evaluation to everyone on the council. I've spoke with a few regarding a couple of the questions. I think that has all been resolved. I would propose to the body that we meet in executive session on the 10th of May, which is the second of the staff presentations of budget items, and for us to meet and discuss the individual evaluations as well as the group evaluation.
So just for the public's information, what Councilman McDougal and the council has done, basically, we're trying to improve. Someone made the comment about 10 city managers in 12 years or something like that, and that's just ridiculous. So what we have tried to do from day one with Mr. Barber is to set objectives and to goals, and he has met those to my satisfaction anyway. But a part of that process is that he needs feedback from the council, and the council needs feedback from him. So we have a two-part process that Councilman McDougal has suggested, and I like it. Part 1 is doing individual evaluations on the city manager, and Part 2 would be the executive session portion of that, where we all go into the executive session and beat up on him together, and then give him a chance to beat back up on us.
Not that second part. Is the 10th okay with everybody?
I'm not going to be here that day either.
So we have two people.
What, isn't that when we're having one of our budget sessions?
It's the second one.
That's why this would save taxpayer money, because we'll just do the executive session since it is a call meeting.
What's the next meeting after that?
Can we do it sooner? When's the can we do it with the first one?
2 of us will not be present for the first one.
Okay, because I have mine done. I have my homework done.
Or we can do it at the next council meeting.
I will not be
See it
present for the
delayed.
next council meeting.
I would just ask you, we've been working on this evaluation now for 3 months, and we have a good city manager, and I want to keep our good city manager, so I think we owe it to him that we move this thing forward. I would hate to see us move to the next month to make this happen.
Okay, so we're missing 2 people at each one of those, or is there one that's better?
We're missing our city attorney at the 10th.
On the 10th, I will be out of town on the 10th.
I'm not going to be here either. My Kara's graduation that day.
So, the 10th is out, so we'll have to come up with a date.
Okay, I guess we can work on this outside of council. I'll send an email, see if I can get something going.
So y'all have a request, an email today for a work session on the 22nd already.
That's right, that came sometime this afternoon. I glanced at it. but
Everybody gonna be on the 22nd? Anybody gonna be gone?
Nobody's responded yet, so
I had time to see it. There were like
Tuesday.
10 new emails.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm good with the 22nd.
Tuesday at 3.
I'm good.
You're not good with the 22nd? One of the frustrations, when I'm in Tom's office and he and Elisa are trying to put together schedules for the council, is just trying to figure out when everybody can be here at the same time. That's tough. So,
Sarah went 0 for 6 on the last attempt.
yeah, Sarah looks, she's over there, oh my lord. Yeah. Okay, let's, can we agree to call the city manager? Let's figure out a date that we can get together and make that happen.
Yeah.
Everybody's,
Yep.
I can
okay.
make those dates.
All right. Any further comments on that? All right, tab B, Finance, Sarah Hefty.
We know we're in trouble when she has to bring a glass to drink.
Buckle up.
Uh-oh.
Just kidding. Hopefully. All right, this is our financial update for March of 2018. If you want to move on to the next slide. This will be my full presentation. I gave the abridged version on Thursday. So this is our total cash in the bank. I'm comparing end of March of 2017 to end of March of 2018. From that point to this point, we've gone from 7 million to 9.7 million, and this is all of our cash accounts. So this is our main operating account, as well as our SPLOST accounts, our payroll account, etc. Going on down, the first three that you see listed there, they're actually part of our main operating account, our pooled cash account. So when you see a negative, it doesn't mean a negative in the bank. These funds are actually included all in one bank account. The system tracks which fund the cash is due to. So that first one you see is our general fund. It has stayed pretty consistent from this time last year to now. And our water sewer fund has actually grown significantly from a negative $655,000 at this point last year to $822 in the positive this year. Part of that is our rate increases, but at the end of last year, we did move $644,000 of SPLOST money to help with the debt reduction. So while it is great, it's partially, it was a surplus to that fund from SPLOST to help with debt reduction. Next is sanitation solid waste, and that, as we know, that fund is struggling, and we're seeing a decrease even further in our cash account. And then lastly, these are our three SPLOST accounts. These are not part of our pooled cash. These are actual separate bank accounts. So you can see those are more positive altogether than we were last year.
Okay, before we go past that slide, you know I always mention this. So taxpayers, what you see there on the water sewer fund is that when we came to you some year and a half ago and we said we have a upside down issue here, we have a enterprise fund which is supposed to be a self-sufficient fund that's not performing. It's in the red. We're borrowing money from the general fund to subsidize that fund. We went up on water sewer rates. You can see that on March 31st, 2017, we were $655,240 in the red. The same period this year, we are $822,761 in the black. Now, Sarah has explained that not all of that is due to rate increases, but I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what that means to you as a taxpayer, because I know it impacted everybody out here. My rates went up just like everybody else. Our senior rates went up more. But what that means to you long-term as a taxpayer is that now, instead of borrowing money from an enterprise fund, from a general fund to pay for an enterprise fund, which is supposed to pay for itself, we're actually going to have money in the general fund to do things proactively instead of reactively. All the water sewer infrastructure issues that we're dealing with, the bad roads that we're dealing with that we have to rely on SPLOST money or grant money from the state to fix every year, we're going to have money to be able to fix those things. So that needs to be stated, and I applaud each of y'all, the taxpayers, and I've heard many of your complaints, but I just want you to know that we're headed in the right direction. We're not there yet. I wish I could tell you that, but we are headed in the right direction. But thank you all for understanding that, and Sarah, thank you for explaining that.
All right, next slide. This is a great slide. Shows our growth in the city from 2017 to 2018, just the first 3 months of each year. You can see our residential permits have grown from 11 in the first 3 months of 2017. In 2018, in the same period, we've brought in 65 new permits. This is new construction, not just remodels and things. This is a new building. You can see the tap fees coincide with that. We had 15 water taps, 13 sewer taps at this time last year compared to 62 and 60 this year. So that shows the growth in the city. Commercial so far in 2018, I think we've gotten one now in April, but in the first 3 months we hadn't received any new construction commercial permits, whereas in 2017 we had 2. Any questions on that side? All right. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our water and sewer fund for this is year to date, so this is January through March of 2017 and 2018. 2018 does include the rate increases that went into effect April 1st. 2017 did not have that. So you can see the water and sewer revenues have increased. I think it's about 7% in the water compared year to year, and it was 33% in the sewer from 17 to 18, which was the average rate increase for each water and sewer. That miscellaneous revenue, you see about $100,000 difference from year to year. Part of that, well, the majority of that's your tap fees there that we just saw on the last slide. And then down below you see your expenses. Looks like debt expense increased significantly, but in 2018, this is a 9-month fiscal year since we changed our fiscal year in, so I'm having to spread the debt expense over 9 months instead of a 12 months. So that's, the payments themselves are actually similar from 17 to 18. It's just how many months it's spread over. and depreciation is about consistent. So in 2017, in the first 3 months, we had taken a loss of $517,000 compared to 2018. We've reduced that by 36%, so we still have a loss, but we've at least reined it back a little bit. It's $330,000 so far. So, all right, next slide. This is our sanitation and solid waste, which is our garbage pickup, which is provided by Waste Industries, as well as our solid pickup, which is provided by the city crews. This loss, we still are showing a loss in this fund. This fund still has a ways to go. As you can see, our loss did increase. However, part of that was the realignment of personnel. In this 2018 budget, we understood better where the employees were actually doing the work, not necessarily in the street department, which is in the governmental fund, or the general fund, excuse me. They're actually doing this pickup work, so they've been moved here. So even though the loss did increase slightly, this includes several more personnel as well as our increased tipping fees. All right. Next slide. Wanted to bring y'all an update on our qualified senior discount. So as of last year, we had 670 qualified senior discount customers. As of last week, we had received 294 new applications, and of those, 255 had qualified, which is 38% of last year's number. We still have 22 that were disqualified due to their income being too high, and 17 who still have not completed all their application. Right now, the current limit is $30,150. And we do have customers that come in and ask. We're not looking at taxable income, even though we're looking at people's tax returns. We're not looking at taxable income. We're looking at your household gross income. Any questions on that?
Are we still going to stand by the 50% that we're looking at? Or are we going to let it fall down a little bit?
Well, the 50% was kind of arbitrary. We had no income information on the discounted customers. So when the rate study came about and they asked us, it was really just a guess.
Okay, let me explain the 50% number, because I see people going, oh, the 50% number. When Ralph Tillis did the study, the consultant, they anticipated that only 50% of the seniors would qualify at the new rate increase. So that's where the 50% number, it was not a number that was actually quantified in as much as it was just a number that was just thrown out for the council to look at. So, but that's certainly in the council's purview. It would not be a employee decision. If the council wants to adjust that number, then that would be something the council would have to initiate.
I would just like to see more than 294 out of 670 people respond. I was one of those people, and I do make too much money for this, and I don't have a problem saying that. But there may be some other folks out there that at $1,000 or $2,000 or a number to get more than 38%. I'm not a real big percentage guy anyway. More than 294 people out of 670 to respond, whether that be through our newspaper or radio stations or whatever. I'd just like to see a few more respond. Whether they know they can't do it or not, it would give us an idea of exactly where we stand, and do we need to raise that 30,000 up a little bit?
If we take it 3 times, it'd be 36,180, so that's our next step.
That's another arbitrary number that we're throwing out, and
Right.
I don't know what that number is. All I'm saying is that, it's a shame that we've got, 276 people? No, that's not right. We got more than 275 people that just has chosen not to do anything.
Well, I think we have to take into consideration that there were people who actually didn't qualify. They were claiming a senior in the house and they didn't have a senior in the house. Or at that time, really, it was all seniors, no matter what your income level. So you could have a $300,000 house and you qualified for a discount. And I think that has to be taken into consideration. When we talk about percentage, I think it's more important to look at what the income level is, because it's truly supposed to be for low-income seniors. That was what was recommended by some council members, that it be low income, and that was the consensus. And otherwise my household would qualify too, but the fact is there's also a lot of young families out there with 3 and 4 kids that also struggle paying their bills, and they're low income, but this enterprise fund will never be right if everybody gets the discount, because then we can't pay for what we're supplying, and we end up in the boat that we were in, which is decaying infrastructure that we can't afford to fix.
Other comments?
I would just say this to Councilman Best's point. We do want to make sure that we are bringing in as many people as would qualify for this. We don't want to do anything that would prevent people who do qualify, but I'm likely to believe that $30,150 is probably about as high as we could go and still call this a low-income discount. But I do want to make sure we get as many people as do qualify in there, whether it's through the paper or, even the inserts in the water bill. I've seen that go out again.
Anything else? All right, next slide. We like to end on a positive note. So in October, we went self-funded on our insurance. So instead of sending $120,000 to United Healthcare every month to cover our insurance, we now put that money directly from the payroll into our own bank account, and it sits there until the doctor's claims hit the bank or prescription claims. We also have some administrative fees that come out. So the comparison here is the checks that we wrote in 2017 or in that same time period to United Healthcare compared to the actual claims and administrative fees paid. And you can see the cash outlay difference is almost $200,000 in 6 months. So, great news.
I love this one. I see new faces out there. Those of you who come every month, y'all are bored to death when we saying this, but kudos to our city manager and staff and the council for approving this. I just want y'all to see the impact of that. I mean, I still am amazed every day when I look at that number. When we paid out our claims to United Healthcare, we have saved the city taxpayers $198,717 by being self-funded. Now, that's a scary thing. I'll have to admit, when Tom came to me with that, and then he gave the truckload of paperwork to our city attorney to approve, I'm like, man, there's no way this can work, because nobody's ever done it. I mean, why is it something that Villa Rica's doing? We're not on the cusp of usually bringing things forward that nobody else did, but it's working. And what it does is it gives us flexibility and it gives the employees flexibility. So this is a win-win situation. I can tell you that because I asked this question of Stephanie yesterday. Not only are we saving the taxpayers money with good insurance policy, but our employees are happy for the most part. We've had very few problems, and Wendell, our person that works with us on this, has been very, I would say, probably responds within hours of any kind of request that we have. But basically what this does, to just break it down, I'm not going to go into detail because it would be, like I say, this myriads of paperwork. But basically what it does, it is self-funded. Any cash savings that the city generates from this through wellness programs, through a well workforce, goes back into our fund. It doesn't go to United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, so forth and so on. In addition to that, it also allows the employee the flexibility. I know Councilman Best has said that it helps him, and it helps with maintenance-type drugs, that if you're a diabetic like myself, that you can get maintenance drugs, even if it means those drugs come from Canada, and they're prescribed to the employee on a 6-month basis. So there's a lot of facets. It's a huge program. So if somebody's going to ask out there, well, what happens if you have a catastrophic type injury? One of the main features of this policy is that there is a stop-loss insurance policy, basically, that says that if there is a catastrophic injury that's going to cost the city an enormous amount of money, that insurance policy kicks in and it covers that cost. So there are a lot of fail-safes in the policy. And again, kudos to staff and Stephanie and everybody that hammered this out. And I keep waiting for the hammer to fall, and I hope it never does. But
This is different from the work session, correct?
It's in addition to.
In addition to.
Well, one of the unforeseen things was the cost of drugs had dropped dramatically for the employees. We've heard that.
There's 420 drugs that you get free.
Yep. So that doesn't show up in here, but That's good for them.
and I hate to keep up time with this, but it's really important for everybody to understand this. Crestor, a popular drug for cholesterol. 90-day supply is $101 free. And that's using your taxpayer money for something else, rather than buying prescription drugs for the people who work for the city. So it's just amazing. I can't preach enough for these folks over here in Wendell.
Okay. All right. We're done with that. We'll move on to the SPLOST update. So this is a SPLOST project update for the years 2018 to 2023. This is our 3 SPLOST referendums: 2008 Carroll County, 2015 Carroll County, and 2016 Douglas County. So what kind of got this started was in February, I got a call which alerted me to the fact that I was supposed to be paying back 13.82% to Douglas County for fire and EMS capital projects. It was part of the IGA, or was it 2014 Service Delivery Strategy?
Yes.
Sorry. And it was built into our intergovernmental agreement for the SPLOST with Douglas County. And so while our 2018 budget had kind of allocated public safety money for our police department, actually a good chunk of that was supposed to go back to Douglas County. The total in the 6 years is actually $944,000 that's supposed to be going back to Douglas County for any fire and EMS capital projects that they actually spend. So far, we've already been invoiced twice, so I think they're going to spend it. We've already sent them $74,011 in the last 2 quarters, I believe. So with that being said, we realized we needed to rework our SPLOST projects on our capital plan. But in addition, there were a couple other factors. So in the 2015 SPLOST referendum, the projects were not assigned percentages to the categories. So the categories being transportation and streets, water, sewer, recreation, et cetera, those didn't have allocation percentages. However, the Douglas County SPLOST did, and again, that wasn't taken into account in our capital project list. So that was another thing we had to look at. And thirdly, year to year, we had to make sure that we weren't overspending our cash for the year. So even though we know we're going to get so much SPLOST money, we don't want to be borrowing, we don't want to pre-spend it, basically. So we were trying to look at cash flow as when we were getting the cash and align our projects that way as well. So that was 3 major things. So Tom and I met with the department heads, and we looked at what the SPLOST projects were for our capital projects. You know, we did this budget, that was in August, September of last year. So some things have changed. And again, we had those 3 things we had to look at. Again, it was the allocation percentages as well as the cash flow in each year. So with that being said, did everyone get one of these that I passed out? This is for discussion's sake, but Elisa, if you'll pull this up, the actual project list, we'll take each referendum at a time. So we'll start with Carroll County 2008. She'll pull up the project list as we've proposed it or revised it. And then what I've handed out today, this is new, but basically for each referendum, you'll see it's broken out by 08, 15, and 16. I just wanted to, just real quick, be able to show you what's been added, what's been removed, and what's been delayed since the budget process. Elisa, if you'll show this, or, I don't know, what do you think?
It's the other one. It's the project list.
So our first one is the 08 Carroll County SPLOST. We're no longer receiving this money, but however, we do have money in the bank, about $680,000. So we're proposing to spend that money on various projects.
It's the one right above.
All right. A lot of these are newer projects that weren't on our current year's budget because some of this money we were holding it for other things. For instance, our HEH, we knew we had to finish paying out that paving project. However, we've done that now, and we actually had more in there than we had to pay them, so we were able to allocate that elsewhere. So some of the items that have been added, which are different from our current year capital budget, were, so if you start up at the top, I'll just kind of read out the ones that were added. The courtroom audio visual, which we know we need. The engineer's vehicle, the building inspector's vehicle, the cemetery wall, the downtown master plan, document management software, West Wilson traffic islands, and the dumpster pad and screen. This is for the new library. Those are the items. So in this revised list, those are the ones that you hadn't seen those before in our capital project list from this year's budget.
I thought I'd already seen those items before today.
Correct. But now you're seeing them formally on a revised SPLOST list.
Okay, and that dumpster pad and screen, something got removed from the agenda that had to do with dumpster pads and screens. I got an email saying that it was removed.
Yeah, we took the old dumpster out, the old library dumpster pad out.
Okay, so the whole thing wasn't removed, just, okay.
Item tab E1.
Any other questions on that one? All right.
You'll see that a lot of those are contemporary items, like the court AV.
Contemporary.
Pad. I mean, those are things that we've been talking about since I've been here. Some, only a few of them are older, like HEH predates me. But
Contemporary meaning that we were going to work on it 10 years ago and it's still being worked on. Is that I like that. That's a buzzword, I guess. For
contemporary is just that we've identified those projects since I've been here, just like the dumpster pad. That wasn't something that I think y'all were talking about in August.
All right. Okay. All right, Elisa, if you will scroll down to the next page. All right, this is our 2015 Carroll County SPLOST. So I just want to point out the things that have been changed. The added items were vehicles for the police department, trailer to store tires, that was approved last month's meeting. We talked about that. Air conditioner for Gold Dust, we've added that. Gutters for Gold Dust. Playground equipment for Gold Dust. Security system and access points for various buildings. One item that was removed from this was the Spring Lake remediation. And there were several items that were delayed. This was the downtown sidewalks and streetscapes that was delayed 1 year. Ball field expansions and the zero depth water park at Gold Dust. They were in this year's capital plan for our 9-month budget, but we've pushed that out in this proposed project list.
Can we get an explanation on the Spring Lake? That's the first I've seen of that.
So we had $100,000, I think, for several years in our capital project budget, but what we've been told is that won't touch it, right?
Right. We went out and looked at it. We met with a contractor to get an idea of what it would cost, and we could spend our SPLOST out there digging up stuff and moving it. But for right now, it's not something, one, we can't fix it. We don't have the money to fix it. And two, there's no pressure to fix it. There's no mandate. So at this point, my recommendation is we don't consider it, and we come back and visit that again when we're better able to do something with it.
Any other questions on 2015? All right. Next page is our 2016 Douglas County SPLOST. So it was voted in 2016, but we didn't start receiving the money until the end of 2017. Just want to point out some of the items that were changed. We added the fire and EMS capital to Douglas County. You can see we've allocated some every year for that. With that being said, we had to remove some of the items, again, for the police. So One of the items we removed was video evidence storage. We had budgeted quite a lot of money for that, but Jim has been able to find actually just a monthly fee that we would pay that would, on a much smaller scale, but that will take care of our need for that. So we don't even need that to be a capital purchase. Next, we had originally in our budget a purchase of a police substation and training facility for the Douglas County SPLOST, and then the renovation and improvement of that substation. But since he had to give up $944,000 of the SPLOST that we thought would be allocated for our police department, that had to go. And then lastly, one of the capital items that's kind of been rolling over every year was a joint city-county project for Mirror Lake Parkway, Liberty Road, and Tyson Road. We've taken those out, but there's still street money in the Douglas County SPLOST. But we've just taken out these specific road names. And then again, we delayed some of the items as well. They were originally in our 2018 money. Connors Road Passive Park, we pushed that out. Pine Mountain expansion and Pine Mountain site reengineering. Again, one of the concerns was making sure our cash flow, we weren't overspending each year. So in order to kind of balance the cash flow every year, we had to look at which projects could be pushed out a little bit.
So one of the major changes in the philosophy of this is in the August presentation, you approved police vehicles in the Douglas SPLOST with the precinct. But because we had to pull so much money out of that category, we've moved police vehicles to the Carroll SPLOST. Does that make sense? Because otherwise it rolls back in the general fund. It would have to come out of there. The other major consideration to me is that we've got $360,000 a year in road money in each SPLOST going forward. So that's $720,000 a year, plus we'll get, let's say we get 180, just round numbers, in LMIG. So that would enable us to do $900,000 a year going forward in road resurfacing. And that 900 is about what we spent this year. So you can sort of look at what we did this year and evaluate whether you think that's enough. But that's what's in there right now. So I think those are two key got to haves: annual police vehicles and annual significant road resurfacing, so that we have enough money in there to attract the C.W. Matthews to the bid, which we didn't have in the past.
Connor Road Park, 19 grand for this year. What is that for?
I believe that's what's actually been spent this year.
What do we spend it on?
We're doing the environmental testing
for the studies
that you guys were approved.
Let me see if I can summarize this a little bit, because I don't want people to, when it says removed on here, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Basically what you did was you said this is how much money we're going to bring in the Carroll County and Douglas County SPLOST this year. This is how much we can anticipate. And unlike other cities and counties and states, probably the federal government too, rather than spend the money just because we said we had $10 million, just an arbitrary number, instead of just using that, we said this is how much we're actually going to have coming in this year. So these are the projects that we're going to actually move forward with in this budget year. When it says removed, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means that these are the projects that are funded based on what we know is going to be the Carroll and Douglas County SPLOST numbers that come in. Is that is that fair?
If it says removed, it's no longer on the SPLOST list, but the delayed items, they're still on here. It was just pushed out.
I have a question. Since the police vehicles got moved from the Douglas SPLOST to the Carroll County, you know how those percentages have to break down on the Douglas County side, so public safety gets a certain percentage, Parks and Rec so you just had to shift all that so they still
Yes.
get the percentage that
Right.
they need for public safety on that side of town?
Correct. And we did have some money for public safety vehicles. However, it wasn't enough for him to get the 4 every year that we've been doing. So that's what we supplemented with the Carroll County SPLOST.
Sarah, let me ask you a question. The fire and EMS on Douglas County SPLOST, I don't remember that being an item. Are you counting that under public safety? Because I don't remember seeing fire and EMS. which may be why this is such a surprise, because it was
Yeah.
a surprise to me that we had agreed to pay this money.
Yeah, the way it's written in the SPLOST IGA doesn't list it separately. It says public safety, parentheses, fire and EMS. So I didn't think that applied to us because we don't have fire and EMS. But if you look at a totally separate paragraph, it explains that 13.82% is part of that public safety money.
So, and I mean, I can discuss this more outside of council, but that was a little misleading to us when we were dealing with the budget last August, because we didn't anticipate that that money had already been promised.
Correct.
And so now we're looking at nearly $1 million of that, which was what, 1.5 million for public safety? Nearly $1 million of it goes to this SDS agreement,
Yeah.
which only leaves us with $500,000 in that category, which is not going to do nearly any of the things that we talked about doing.
Which is another good reason we didn't go ahead and spend it, because then we would have been stuck at this, trying to figure out where we're going to come up with this money at the end of the year.
Any other questions?
Okay.
So I guess we are asking for approval on the project list. We'll have to come back to you with formal budget amendments for the 2018 numbers, but as far as this project list, we were hoping to get an approval from the council on that.
You mean an approval to make the changes here, the removed items and the delayed items?
Correct.
And then you moved some from Douglas County to Carroll County?
When did the council receive this?
This sheet with the list, the detailed list was part of the original packet.
This one?
No.
That one.
Yeah, this one's a little more, the summary's a little better to read. I didn't see in all of those, in that spreadsheet, I couldn't tell what had happened.
I'm disappointed to see the downtown
we feel like we need to do this tonight.
Streetscapes have to be delayed.
I think I would like to table this question to next month, if that's okay.
Sarah, what does that do to us as far as the budget? It doesn't affect.
You know, we have brought some of these projects to you already with the explanation that we've revised the SPLOST project, and we hope that they would be approved that way. And you did approve a couple projects last month for water and sewer, I believe. They were part of this revised sheet. So that's where it affects us. But as far as this meeting,
You want to delay because, or table it?
Well, the reason is because when we got this spreadsheet, you couldn't tell in the spreadsheet what was happening. You couldn't tell until you got this sheet that they were moving some of the items around, that they were delaying some items, that they were removing some items. What specifically did we approve last month that would be affected here? I mean, there is an element of this that your recommendation is probably going to be something we need to go with anyway, so I don't have any real problems with doing it tonight, but I would like to look at it a little more. But
sure.
The obvious one's the tractor trailer.
Trailer, yes.
That Charlie presented, that we were using to save us some money on hauling and tire removal. So I know that one's not in last August.
Correct. Also, the engineer and the building inspector's vehicles, those were approved, I believe, in December, but we just recently obtained those, and we paid them out of the 08 SPLOST, which is on this list too.
okay.
I think the
we
council
have to do it anyway. So
I think to Councilman McDougal's point, I was shocked to I'm sure that somewhere someone should have known about the SDS agreement with Douglas County, but I was somewhat shocked that it, when we got the bill basically from Douglas County saying, hey, here's what you owe us for what we did with basically the one fire department at Tyson Road. And but we did ask, and we did receive an itemized list of what they had purchased with that. But that didn't make it an easier pill to swallow for me anyway. But
no, and I hope there's no more agreements out here, because this is 2 agreements I've learned about with Douglas County just in the last couple of months that I had no idea about before. and I know we'll talk about one of them later on, but I'm prepared to go with this agreement tonight.
Institutional knowledge, or the lack thereof.
So are you making that in the form of a motion, Councilman?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve, do they have a formal motion on here? That we approve the updated SPLOST project list as presented tonight by the CFO.
Have a motion by Councilmember McDougal to approve the SPLOST list as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second by Councilmember McPherson. Discussion? Not all in favor? All opposed? 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Tab C, Human Resources, Stephanie Rooks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am going to present you a recommendation for a vendor for our classification and compensation study. The process through which we came to our conclusion was Tom, Sarah, Chief Mansour, and myself interviewed and checked references on 4 different proposals that we received during our RFP period. We checked the references. This Evergreen Solutions is who we're recommending. They have done 16 cities in Georgia, 4 school districts, 1 university, and the Douglas County Water Authority. Right now they are finishing up with Douglas County, and they are in the middle of another compensation study with Douglasville, the city of Douglasville. The outcomes that we hope to see are new and updated position descriptions and a new pay study, a new pay scale. The pay scale that we're using now the basis of it is the old 2009 salary study that was never implemented. What we did is we added Social Security, cost of living increases percentage, and compounded them up to 2014. So we're kind of behind the curve, I believe. The current salary ranges, they haven't been updated since 2014. And we hope to ensure through the salary study that our employees are compensated at a competitive rate so we can retain our current employees and then recruit and retain the best talent in the area. So we are proposing that we approve the proposal that Evergreen Solutions gave to us in the amount of $27,435. And they will come in and do job descriptions. They will interview the employees and develop our salary schedule in time for the fall budget.
Did you check with GMA? I mean, they did this once or twice for us already.
GMA actually does not do comprehensive salary studies. 2 years ago I called and they said they no longer did them at that point.
Okay, thank you.
I made this comment Thursday night. I've been in government services now, working for the public for 38 years, and most of that was as an employee. And I've seen 30 of these compensation studies. So I would just, if the council is going to spend the money on this, then I would hope that we consider that when future budgets come up, to the extent we can, considering there may be some changes in council, perhaps, maybe not. But just understand that if we spend the money to do this compensation study and then it just sits on a shelf and gathers dust and it's never implemented, then that's a waste of taxpayer money.
Absolutely.
And it's not fair to our employees.
Make a motion to approve the proposal by Evergreen Solutions not to exceed $27,435.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Best, seconded by Councilmember McPherson, to approve the compensation study, and I've been trying to read through this 162-page document up here again. Any discussion?
A lot of those are resumes, detailed resumes of the consultants, so.
Further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Question for Mr. Mecklin. Could we have also made the motion to implement the findings? Or
I don't think you want to do that until you actually get the findings.
Yeah. And look at the budget.
What we're committed to is trying to get this thing produced so that we can use it in this fall's budget process. That's the challenge now.
Yeah, I want to see the numbers before we get into it.
it'd be really interesting.
The answer to your question is yes, you could do it, but also you shouldn't do it. That's in the blind.
Right.
Tab D, Community Development, Bobby Elliott.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have a conditional use tab 01-18. Connie Wood and Cindy Tolbert of Villa Rica, Georgia have requested a conditional use permit for the property located at 105 Glanton Street in land lot 160 of the 6th District in Carroll County for the purpose of a kennel. The property consists of 0.84 acres and is located in Ward 1. I know our UDC calls it a kennel, but the ladies would rather it be called a professional pet grooming, daycare, boarding, and boutique facility. In your packet, you've got, I think, the application, and you've also got the slideshow that we uploaded today for your benefit. The applicants, Connie Wood and Cindy Tolbert, submitted an application for the conditional use permit for the property located at 105 Glanton Street for the operation of a kennel. Staff recommendations were to approve with conditions. Now, Planning Commission heard this last night. They also have some conditions that I will go through in a couple seconds to add to the staff recommendations. And we do have the applicants are both here tonight. The conditions by staff are all improvements as prescribed by the Downtown Development Authority to be completed prior to occupancy. The outdoor pet holding areas should not be visible from Highway 78. Ingress and egress to the site to be provided from Glanton Street and not from Highway 78. The applicant to provide the following to the Community Development Department: the hours and manner of business operations for kennels and retail business, provide the number of employees working all shifts, and a 24-hour emergency contact. The conditional use permit shall be valid from the date of council adoption as long as Connie Wood and Cindy Tolbert are the owners/operators, and the conditional use permit is not transferable. And last night at the Planning Commission, they recommended approval with those conditions and with the addition of the following: no outdoor play from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Sundays or after 9 p.m. daily. Applicant to make facade and building improvements as prescribed by the Downtown Development Authority. The western portion of the building to be soundproofed inside, and a 6-foot privacy fence shall be installed surrounding the outdoor play area.
Questions for staff?
I have one too. Now, the outdoor playing area, where's that going to be if they don't want it to be shown from Highway 78?
I would defer to the applicant. They're fully prepared to answer all those questions.
Because that was something that somebody was asking me. Would it be, since it's just a little bit of space on the back side of that building, where would be that area? And would this impose, when they built that building and they were doing some things, it affected that church there with so would this have any effect on the church?
I think what they're planning to do is not the typical kennel and outdoor play area that you see on Channel 2 News from time to time. There's a lot more to this facility. They have an indoor play area inside for these animals, and the only small area, I think, and they'll touch on that in a few minutes, are for bathroom type breaks for the animals outside. They're not going to have runs outside that they're going to turn the animals loose to go back and forth like you'd normally see, but they can cover that in detail.
Any more questions of staff before we call the applicant up?
Yeah, when did you say that whatever you uploaded, was that the PowerPoint that shows what they're doing, what it is?
Yes.
Okay, now, I had that probably a year ago. Now, if it just got uploaded today, I wouldn't have seen it. Have y'all looked at it? Okay, you've seen it?
It's the, Leslie, it's the same one that when we had the meeting.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I just wasn't sure
Right.
about everybody else because it didn't go up today. I've seen it several times. Okay. Because it does answer a lot of questions if you're familiar with that, and I'm just sorry to see that it went up so late.
Any other questions of staff? If not, would the applicants please come forward in case the staff has any questions? Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Cindy Talbert. My address is 217 Browning Road, Villa Rica. I'm Connie Wood, 217 Browning Road also.
Questions of the applicant, for the applicant?
Well, that was my question as to where would the animals be outside as a play area? Since they're saying it shouldn't be shown from Highway 78.
But what they were saying was it is the area behind the building, which goes from the back of the building to the block wall that is behind the church property. And not to be visible from Highway 78, the fence would be visible. It would be a privacy fence,
Right.
but it's just a matter of the animals would not be visible. As far as if you had a chain link fence, you could see animals from the main road, and you would not be able to see them. However, you would, of course, be able to see the fence.
Can I show you, can I approach and show you this one photograph?
Sure.
So you have an idea? This is the back of the building here, and this is the play area, so what it would look like in the back. But it
So
would-
this would be there.
This would be here, this one, and it would be fenced. The whole thing would be fenced, so you would not see this area.
I'm telling you, you should see these pictures because it's better than kids' daycare. I mean,
I wish they could see the photos. Do we not have those in where we can show them to the public?
I don't think we have it available that everybody in the audience can see it. I wish they could, but
Lenise has it electronically, but I'm not sure if anybody. You do? You've got it, Lisa?
Explain it to you a little better if you need to. Want this?
Bobby, is it not Chippy's Place presentation in the packet? It's in the packet. It's called Chippy's Place presentation.
It's in the packet.
I just didn't know, because I did all my packet before today, so I didn't go back. But I've seen, I'm familiar with it, so.
Neither can I.
I guess while they're looking for that, I'll just make a couple of comments. I listened to the presentation last night at P&Z, and I was a little skeptical about it. Not opposed, because I think that something needs to be done with that building, and I think we all agree with that. But after hearing your presentation last night at P&Z, I began to think this is a much bigger project than I ever thought it would be. I heard you were going to put an elevator in there, which just that building has stood there for so long and been such an eyesore. I'm actually happy to see something going over there, and I hope that it works out very well for you.
This has been in planning for many years, so we put a lot of thought.
I think I saw this plan about a year ago when we had a different person sitting in Bobby's office, or something very similar to it. So I know you guys have worked hard on it, and a
Yeah,
lot of
just
work's been done here. This is not an overnight idea that
For those of you who might not know, this is that old concrete building as you come into town from Douglasville on the left-hand side. Yeah, the photograph's up there, so you can see the old building and what they're proposing, so.
And the rendering of this
this is of course the before, the one on the left. This is actually the state rendering that Chris had done at University of Georgia to, I guess, fit in with what we want the historical district to look like and for it to fit in with. So this is a rendering that was done with Chris in charge with the University of Georgia. So
I won't hold that against you.
Well, do you feel that, so I know that they worked out all that out, but is it your intent to come very close to this or to do this? I mean, is this an accurate representation of what you intend to do?
Absolutely, with the exception, we have not gone into detail about what the cost of the roof line, if you see it over here.
Oh, I see it.
It's just kind of almost like a little bit of an unnecessary thing. And of course, if it's for, the cost is reasonable, yes, but if not, I think that if it just comes straight across, that would not change the facade of the building dramatically at all.
I would just say one other thing. This is going to be new for us in the downtown overlay, and in fact, last month we approved this. So I think that be open-minded, that community development may have other concerns as you move forward in this process. I know P&Z struggled a little bit last night to come up with some types of parameters. They even thought about delaying it, and then they did not. So I would just say be mindful and be open-minded that community development will be working very closely with you.
Other questions of the applicants? Thank you all.
Thank you.
David, we don't have to have a...
No, I think you do have to have a public hearing on this.
Okay. So we will open the public comments portion of the meeting as it relates to this request. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak for or against this request, please do so at this time.
I was going to ask you if are you going to try to hear from P&Z?
That is.
Larry Kors, 115 Maple Valley Drive. I asked that you consider this positively. Dr. Burnett looked at this building.
Pick it up.
Approximately 15 years ago, but the price was not reasonable at the time. So you would have had a vet clinic if the price had been reasonable back some 15 years ago. You do also have an approved facility that was used as a veterinary facility 2 parcels to the east. Now, Dr. Burnett had the old bus station that you'll see painted with the decorative signs of dogs and animals on a collage on the side of the building. And he has since decided to move further back by the elementary school, and that is where he is now instead of in this facility. So the idea of this is correct, to have a veterinary activity there. I disagree with the restrictions placed upon it, the hours for the animals to be there, and also restricting it to, we don't want to see your animals out. Why? You got chain link fence with goats behind it, just a street back and just right around the corner down behind the Ford dealership.
You see any goats back there?
Not yet, but you've approved it. So you've kind of opened Pandora's box, and I don't really think you should try to, shove it. Unless you're going to shove all the animals out of town, you really shouldn't be quite so restrictive. The building looks good. The architectural rendering looks great. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none, the matter will revert back now to the council for attention. Councilman McPherson has asked to hear from someone from P&Z, Planning and Zoning, if
Would you mind?
Mr. Flowers.
Mr. Flowers, please come forward.
Just 2 of y'all here, right?
I think there's only one. It's only one.
That's right. John's in D.C. too.
Tom Flowers, 3107 Golfers Way. I was at the meeting last night when this was discussed and acted on, and there was quite a bit of discussion back and forth about the business and its potential and what it looked like and would it fit into the area. And we considered everything that they had to say, felt that on balance, all of the plan seemed feasible, and they certainly seemed to be putting a great deal of time and energy as well as capital investment into this project. And if you just look at the renderings, you can see what it's going to do to improve the appearance of Highway 78 right there on the east side of town. I agree nobody wants to hear constant yapping of dogs, but where this is and the way they intend to manage it, I don't think it's going to be any worse than my big old dog at home, you know, barking at neighbors or people on the street. So it's just and it's certainly going to be an aesthetic improvement on Highway 78, as well as a growing business concern that we need here, and will help us with our revitalization and the downtown commerce. So there was I would say that probably 2 or 3 of the people on P&Z came to the meeting with a lot of skepticism about whether they were going to vote for this or vote against it. And the ladies, I think, changed all the minds there, and it was a unanimous vote to recommend it to you for approval. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the report.
Council, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions, 10 conditions specified, the application for our kennel at 105 Glatton Street from Connie Wood and Cindy Talbert.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Carter, seconded by Councilmember McPherson to approve the motion with the 10 conditions. David, as a matter of record, do we need to read those into the motion, or?
No, I don't think you need to. I think it's sufficiently identified as to which conditions that are contained in the reports.
Okay, thank you, sir. Motion second. Further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Welcome to Villa Rica.
It's been a long road. Long road.
Are you going to bore us with that big old long, big, thick book now?
No, sir, I didn't bring the book with me. I just used it for effect anyway, you know.
You didn't bring your truck?
No.
Because it would have been required.
Ever since like the end of the first week, in 5 months yesterday, I've been employed in the city of Villa Rica. Thank you very much.
Did you say 5 months?
5 months, yes,
He's
sir.
tenured. Seemed like only yesterday, Bobby.
Well, since the end of the first week, discovering what I discovered with the regulations that we have and what we had in place, I started to work on doing some revisions. We had the utility design and construction manual that has all of our water, sewer, pump station stuff in it, was adopted in 2004. And Pete, I think Pete will tell you that the rules and regulations have gotten scarier since those 14 years. What I've got here is the draft development regulations. The ultimate goal is to get away from the UDC, which has everything except for the utility design and construction manual, and go back to a development regulation manual and a zoning code with the map and with the landscape ordinance, sign ordinance, all that. This is the first step. I updated all the utility design and construction manual and pulled everything else construction-wise out of the UDC and put it in this manual. It's got 12 sections. Everything is up to date to today's regulation. In your packet, I told Tom that I was going to try to give a 2-page summary, and that just wouldn't work. So, and I'm not going to sit here and go through all this tonight, but it's a big step. We've got development that's picking up now in the city, and I'm having to review all the design drawings under the old stuff because I don't have new stuff yet to do that. And some of the things are not allowed anymore under the new regulation. So that's why I've been in such a sense of urgency to get this adopted.
All right, let me summarize for you. I'll cut through the big book. Basically what this is when a developer comes to us and says, we want to build a development, what are your standards? Now we can tell them. I look through the pavement section, it is in depth, and I kudos to you for putting that together. But what this does is basically give those developers a blueprint to say, this is what we expect and this is what we require in Villa Rica, rather than just have anybody come in and build whatever. And us, well, we don't really know if you need a 6-inch valve there or a 4-inch valve, or do you need a concrete box, or what are your roads, what base, what kind of topping are you going to have on your road. This has all of those things in it, so that when if someone comes to the city now with a request to move here, then we've got an owner's manual, so to speak, to show them what our requirements are.
And I do all the plan review now on projects. And once this is adopted, I send all the engineers that are doing work locally for us or for developments that's going to be in the city, all of the checklists and everything, so that way when they're drawing everything up, they don't have to submit 5 or 6 times for me to review and change and change and change. They know what they're doing. So
which makes us more user-friendly as well.
It streamlines everything.
Questions?
He's put a lot of effort into it, 300 pages.
300 pages, yeah, plus.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So in the interim, between now, assuming you pass this, and when the rest of it gets passed, what Bobby and I have discussed is if there's a conflict between this new document and the other older existing stuff, that the new document wins. And I don't know how to do that legally, but I think that's a council thing that needs to be added as a condition to this motion or something.
Well, it is already in the proposed ordinance. It says any and all ordinances, codes, and regulations in conflict with these development regulations are hereby repealed. So that says that this wins.
And
Where is the
Mr. Mayor, this book has, the new manual has nothing about zoning in it. It's all about construction and specification. So if there's a zoning question that comes in from somebody, we'll refer to the current UDC until we get that changed.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Where's the ordinance? I don't have a copy of that.
It's here.
So the cover sheet, Bobby, is actually an ordinance that needs to be signed. Well, what is the motion going to be? Mr. Mecklin?
The motion is going to be I move to accept the ordinance as presented in writing.
I see it. I'll make a motion to approve the draft development regulations as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman McDougal, seconded by Councilmember Carter, to approve as presented. Any discussion? Not all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work, Bobby.
Thank you.
Tab E, Public Works, Pete Sambronis, Charles Davis,
Gee, Pete, you've changed.
Zarbonis. I always pronounce his name wrong. I'm sorry, Pete. I just messed your last name up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I have again to bring a construction of a dumpster pad just for the new library. We're going to take the other one off for the old library at this time. I would still like to recommend DL Masonry to do the job. I have talked to another concrete contractor. It's hard for me to find anyone that will combine pouring the slab, installing the fence in the concrete, and doing brickwork all with one contractor. Everybody it would take me 3 contractors to do that. And with not getting those posts all put in the wet concrete and everything that's involved with getting a quality job done on it, I just don't think we're gonna save money or be happy with the results with what I can find to do it with. There is a little more to it than just pouring slab. He's got to cut out a 14 by 19 foot out of the asphalt, 6 inches deep, stabilize the ground for the concrete. Put in the rebar, pour 6-inch slab. That it would be 14 by 9. The 8-foot supports for both the block fence and the gate post will be all put into that slab while it's wet. And the gates will be decorative with slats to match the trim on the library, and the same bricks that were put on the building will build the 8-foot high walls around it. So this will be somewhat of a more fancier than usual. We would have dumpster pad, but it will match the library and it will add to the aesthetics over there. It would be staff recommendation that we move forward with this one for $24,500.
Okay, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
On the agenda item, I believe it says 1 dumpster pad in the wall.
It does. The wall is actually at another location.
I know that, but the wall is at Hillcrest Cemetery.
Yes, sir.
But what I'm saying is, on our agenda item, it says construction of 2 dumpster pads and 1 retaining wall. So is it 2 dumpster pads or is it 1
It's going to be 1 dumpster pad.
So we had discussed doing 2, 1 at the old library, 1 at the new library. There was a little bit of discussion with council that we didn't really need to build 1 at the old library site. So what you're requesting is for money for 1 dumpster pad at the new library site.
Yes, sir.
And $20,000 for the wall at Hillcrest Cemetery.
At Hillcrest Cemetery.
The motion's going to need to be
All that,
modified
yes.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing, I just want to make sure that the council understands, I believe this is the retaining wall, is that a not to exceed bid, $20,000, or is that a?
It is not no, it was not bid as a not to exceed. That was after many meetings and hours there at that. That's going to involve taking down the chain link fence, taking down the wall that's there. It'll repair the brickwork and damage to the grave sites that are involved, and then put a new retaining wall back up, replace the chain link fence, and there's possible, depending on how much damage there is to the grave sites, we may have to come back and amend that.
The motion says not to exceed $20,000, and if we can get that wall built for $20,000, Bobby, it would surprise me with taking out the old possibility of having to. I just want to make sure we get the wordage right in here, because if it's not to exceed, then it's not to exceed.
Mayor, just about that entire area along that existing wall is going to have to be dug by hand, because you can't get a machine in there, and that's why it's so labor intensive. Our contractor was afraid to put a cap number because, you got cemetery surrounds, grave surrounds that have already started falling, and so he just hesitated to put a cap on it.
I don't have a problem with the motion at all, and I certainly think the work needs to be done. I'm just saying it needs to be stated correctly, because it's not
Got a cap stated there.
That's right, Bobby, you have a cap.
$20,000 cap.
Right. I stated the cap because if it's more than that, we're going to have to come back,
Okay.
right?
Do
You'd feel better if I were to just recommend that y'all just let us spend whatever it takes.
No, I thought we had a bid.
No, but I don't,
Did
at
we
the
not
same
have a
time.
bid, Charlie?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
I thought the same guy was doing both of
I
them.
think
He
it
is.
costs so.
And I thought that was the price, not to
Yeah, that's
exceed.
what I'm saying.
It's a cost plus on that particular aspect of the.
See, you got the same.
Yes, down at the bottom, page 3 of the breakdown.
He has no idea what it's going to cost until he gets in there and sees.
And I understand that. I'm just saying what I am reading here is not
Yeah.
to exceed $24,500 and $20,000 respectively. What that tells me as an elected official is it's not going to exceed $20,000.
Or if it does,
And
we'll
if
come
it-
back and y'all approve it or we stop.
Okay, as
Right,
long as everybody
which is
understands that.
essentially a blank check, because you're not gonna just stop building this wall.
Yeah, but we'll know better once we get into it. Right now, we don't know anything.
I just want everybody to understand what we're talking about.
Got it. I'll tackle this motion.
On the dumps, can I ask a question about the dumpster? Where's the brick? Where's the, okay, so you're driving off of Dallas Highway, you're coming down the side of the library toward where the dumpster will sit.
Yes, ma'am. It's at the end of the main road coming in. You'll drive straight into it, and
So
that little
where-
part that extends down past where you turn left to go into the parking lot.
Which side will the gates open on?
Straight
You know where Woodall Dentistry is?
Wait, she's on the dumpster pad.
Oh, you're on, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Dumpster pad.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
was still on
those will
the,
be-
not to exceed
Those
$20,000.
have to be slatted fence then.
Yes, the gates will be slatted fence. They'll be all black, and they'll match the trim
And the brick is on the side and the back.
on the side and the back,
So the
8 foot
trees
high.
will get to see the back. Well, I'm just saying, all the nice stuff we're paying for isn't what you see when you drive down. I mean, it'll still look nicer,
Right.
but do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Do you know what I'm saying? At least two sides of the brick, nobody's gonna see it. It's got trees on the back side, the other side has the trees toward the hospital.
Until someone builds on that property behind it.
When we have that nice little trail that goes between the well, that's true.
Maybe they have to come back and redo it.
Okay.
I've advocated all along, do it right from the beginning.
Right. I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion we engage DL and Masonry LLC to construct a dumpster pad and a retaining wall and fence for an amount not to exceed $24,500, and to construct the wall and fence at the Hillcrest Cemetery for a value not to exceed $20,000.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Carter, seconded by Councilmember Best to approve as he described it, and as I think it's written on the discussion.
I just separate.
I'm a little concerned about the not to exceed. I don't see how that works.
Well,
Not to exceed, to
they'll get up
start it,
20,000 and then they'll let it stop and come back to us and we'll know.
but it has to be done, right? It has to be done.
We don't want a blank check.
We have no choice. It has to be done.
Right, that has to be
It's our
done. I guess my concern is, do you feel like this is a good ballpark number? Are we looking at something much larger than this?
With everything that we can see without tearing it apart, I feel good about it, but I am nearly certain there will be more extensive damages once that wall comes down and the graves deteriorate.
Okay, I understand. We don't have much of a choice.
Further discussion? If not, all in favor? It is unanimous.
And the second item I have this evening is the traffic islands on West Wilson Street. I did receive another bid from Classic Curb. I didn't get it in my hands until Monday morning about 10 o'clock. And that bid was $20,500. And the other bid we had was $31,890. So it would be staff recommendation that we engage with Classic Curb Incorporated to build those islands and 2 handicap ramps.
You're comfortable with the reputation of who you've chosen?
Yes, sir. They've worked with us many times.
And you feel like those were comparable bids, Charlie?
I didn't get to walk the area with Classic Curb, but my street department manager did, and I think he did it with Bobby's input from the map that they had. And yeah, with the information that I have, I think so, yes, sir.
And you're confident that we're going to get as good a service?
I'll be on site when it's going on.
Sorry, ready for a motion?
Well, before we do, well, y'all make a motion, and if it gets a second, I'll discuss it.
Make a motion to approve the bid with Classic Curb to put in the 5 islands? Something's
The way
not
they
right
get-
there.
it is.
That's a different number.
It is a different number, but it's still the same design. The first island going in has 3 sections. They're just listing that one as one island.
Okay.
Because it has breaks for the sidewalk.
For the islands.
Right, for the islands.
Did we not say 8 islands Thursday?
Depends on whether you can count the pieces or the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about.
Have a motion to approve the contract with Classic Curb for the installation of some amount of concrete islands. Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second. Now we have discussion. Charlie, I don't want you to take this personally, although we're talking about your item here, but to me, this goes back to my point earlier in the year when I said we need a purchasing manager. When we bid things, the bid should go out to all the contractors at the same time. I don't think it's appropriate. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but in my opinion, just as a matter of business, it's not appropriate to get a quote from some company and then find another company to give a comparison bid. That's not fair. If you bid it out to start with, we're the owner. If you say, I need a bid on 8 islands and they're all 40 by 5, one area 20 by 6 handicap ramp, if you bid everything and everybody looks at that same document and everybody bids off that same document, that is a fair bid, in my opinion. I'm not, if you're saying, I trust you, so if you're saying that these are comparable bids, that both companies bid the same thing, then I'm comfortable with that. But I'm just saying, as a matter of general principle, Mr. City Manager, we need to start bidding things out from the source and getting like bids from different vendors.
Do it the correct way.
Well, I think in this case, though, the reason I'm asking those questions, Charlie, is because you didn't actually bid this out, did you? You called and got some quotes from some various folks.
I had DL Masonry already here looking at 4 of the projects that he's already working on for us.
I got you.
And so with him being here in town and him has worked with us for 12 years and done an exceptional job, I was comfortable with what he was telling me.
I understand. I think I've said this a number of times, and it probably goes right along with what the mayor's saying. I want to see multiple, whether we call them bids or quotes. I asked you that earlier today. I'm comfortable with this one because you're comfortable with it. But going forward, this isn't for you necessarily, but for everybody. I want to see multiple bids or quotes. It allows me to make a better informed decision and probably speeds this process up a little bit. Okay.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Charlie. Item number. So that's it for you, Charlie. You feeling better? Good. Good deal. Tab F, Vicki Coleman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item that I have before you, this is a recommendation for the Recreation Advisory Committee. You have an application that was submitted by Mr. Charles Allen Martinez. Me, along with members of my staff, had an opportunity just to sit down and certainly talk with him about the direction that we're looking at going. And certainly staff recommendation is approval. Mr. Martinez has worked with the recreation program for a number of years. Additionally, as I mentioned previously, he's had an opportunity to sit on some other boards that I also think would be very valuable in terms of adding capacity to our organization.
Okay, Vicki, let me ask you a question. How many members do you have on your Recreation Advisory Commission?
I have one presently.
I mean, how many total do you have? 7? How many people are on?
I believe there are 7 spaces. Most recently, when it was filled, at the most we had were 5.
So this will be your second person?
That is correct.
Okay. When we talked about this on Thursday, I gave you a deadline. I'd like to see this, or a suggestion, when I'd like to see this done, correct? And that suggestion was, I forgot to go.
You mentioned you wanted this to be done, the positions to be filled prior to the budget process, so they'd have an opportunity to look and chime in on some of the projects that we were interested in.
Thank you for reminding me. You could have said anything, I'd have probably agreed. Yeah,
that's a very reasonable request.
So we have 2 members now, if the council approves Mr. Martinez, and then we need 5 more people.
Some of y'all need to start thinking about that.
I'll make a motion to appoint Alan Martinez to the Recreation Advisory Committee.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve Alan Martinez. Did you get the two? Okay. As a Recreation Advisory Commission member. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Vicki. Tab G, Information Technology. Jim Chambers is going to talk over our head now about stuff.
Talk about the clouds, huh?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My agenda item is to replace our current physical server infrastructure with Server SAN, which would let us go to a virtual infrastructure with disaster recovery as well. Right now we have 5 physical servers that are basically doing the workload of 10 to 12 servers, so a virtual environment would be the best bet for us to go. Also gives us room for growth with us implementing a document scanning solution, fleet management solution, and whatever else comes down the road in the upcoming years.
I asked this question Thursday. I'm going to ask it again. Does this better prepare us in the wake of all the cyber attacks on cities and counties? Does this better prepare us to?
Yes, sir. My recovery time and what we currently have now can be anywhere from, I would say, a minimum of 1 day to 1 to 2 weeks. Whereas a solution like this, my recovery time would go into the hours.
I'm always amazed to see something like this show up as big old number like 131,000 and they put the 55 cents out there. That doesn't make a bit of sense.
It's a whole different world we're living in.
Yep.
You know, with technology now. Some of this over my head, but I did read through all of it, even though I'm limited on understanding. But I watch enough of the news to know you better protect your stuff.
And this is
And you've warned us.
And we're buying double here because we are going to have a disaster recovery solution, say at the PD, then at of course our co-location facility in Bremen. But our old equipment that we have now is not just going to be thrown away or discarded. I will still use that for testing environment. Some things I'll discuss with you guys on budget on Thursday, and also we'll have physical domain controllers. Also, which is just good to have some physical servers still in play. But what they're doing right now is they're inadequate.
Council?
Guess that means we won't have to use a phone anymore for a hotspot out at one of our places? Or was it a laptop?
I'll make a motion to purchase HP server. To purchase HP server/SAN solution from Technology Integration Group for the sum of $131,380.55.
Have a motion to approve as presented. Do I hear a second?
We need it, so I second the motion.
Second by Councilmember Marchman. And as a discussion item, this was a budgeted item, and it is under budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, sir. Tab H, City Manager.
Mayor and Council, we have several items to discuss, either from the Thursday meeting or that we added during the Thursday meeting. The first one concerns the billboard at Gaston Outdoor Advertising. There has been a request made, and again repeated during public comment today, that we approve, or that you authorize me to sign a certification that GDOT circulates that says that the structure cannot be lowered without violating one of our, laws, ordinances, or regulations. And if we do that, that would allow the owner of the sign, who is also the participant in the lease with us for that property, to remove the trees and not lower that sign, which would give it greater economic value. So the question that you have before you is, will the council authorize me to sign that certification?
This is really a two-part discussion is what we're dealing with.
Will we be hearing from the applicant?
We certainly can.
Thought we did.
I don't think we have to, but I just wondered if that was part of the process.
It doesn't have to be.
I
but
talked
you
a
can.
little bit on Thursday about some concerns I had. I have resolved those concerns, and I'm prepared to move forward if nobody else has any questions.
I'm prepared to move forward too. I'll make a motion, we authorize city manager to sign the GDOT certification document.
Have a motion and a second. Did you get the two? Discussion?
Well, part of this discussion is,
do this.
he not only wants that document signed, he also would like for the city manager to begin a dialogue with him to renegotiate, or not renegotiate, but to enter into a new lease agreement. He needs that as part of this. So would you amend your motion to authorize the city manager to begin that negotiation?
My question is, at the work session, he came up and said he wanted up or down vote, and when I had made that same suggestion at the work session.
I think he needs both. I think without both, it doesn't work for him. Mr. Metcalf?
I think that's right. He needs the authorization to sign the form and the authorization for the city manager to negotiate. Now, he could still move ahead with the certification and cut down the trees, but he has no guarantee of a continued lease.
Okay.
He probably is not going to have the trees cut until a new lease is negotiated, but that's his decision.
Yeah, that's totally his. Okay, I'll amend my motion to include authorize city manager to negotiate the new lease. As well
And that
as-
new lease will have to, if it is negotiated, it'll have to come back before you for approval.
Yeah.
Does your second stand, Councilman Marshman? Okay. Have a motion and a second.
It was actually Leslie
was
that
me.
seconded.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I almost forgot. It's okay. Meetings are long.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous.
The second item concerns a budget amendment. We discussed this Thursday, and after speaking with the city attorney, decided that we needed to bring back to you an ordinance to amend the budget. So you have in your packet now an ordinance for a budget amendment that would enable us to do two things. One is to hire 3 additional full-time seasonal workers with no benefits to help us compensate for the loss of the Douglas inmate crew. And then secondly, to abolish 3 part-time code enforcement positions and create 3 full-time code enforcement positions with benefits.
Now, you got a lot of numbers on here. I sure would like to know what the bottom line is on all these numbers.
I think the increase was about 53,000, and we were balancing the adjustment with an increase in building permit revenue.
So you're asking us to increase this year's budget by 53.3.
We're increasing the revenue and the expense. All of this is in the general fund.
Is there a issue with having a full-time employee and not offering benefits?
Not if they're seasonal. These would, we already have 3 of these positions in the current budget, so we would be adding 3 to it.
Okay.
The position has already been advertised. I think we have about 100 applicants. So we're in the process of trying to get those positions filled now for this summer, the original 3.
Are these 3 positions primarily going to be doing maintenance on right-of-ways and cleaning stuff up and what?
I know what my opinion is, but honestly, until we get into it and see what losing Douglas did to us, I don't know how we really predict.
Who do they report to?
They're going to be reporting, they're going to be paid out of street, so they're going to report to Jeremy, which is where the other 3 are, so you'll have 6 of them. But I'm sure that at some point, because Pine Mountain is involved, that Mark will be involved with them also. But that could be true about all 6 of them and not just I mean, when we add these three, they're not gonna like, those three be one place and, you're gonna have 6 guys together. So, that's up to Jeremy and Mark, I mean.
I'm not gonna get on my soapbox on this, I promise, but it's kind of ironic to me that we're asking for seasonal workers, to replace a boot camp crew to basically do maintenance type work. And we're also asking for a full-time code enforcement officer, because if we were to start writing codes on grass being high, we couldn't pay the fine, the city. So I would just hope that, that with the addition of these seasonal workers and with the coaxing of our managers in the room here, that we get those tractors out and start cutting grass. When I was assistant city manager, the council member to my left used to ask me every single day, how many tractors are out cutting grass? So that was important, and there were always tractors out cutting grass. I want to see that again. Our city doesn't look good right now, and I want to see that improve. So.
And it is hypocritical for us to say that you can't keep your lawn with long grass if we're not doing our job. Also, just real quick, Wesley said that the loss of that crew out there for Pine Mountain was catastrophic, to lose that crew. They really depend on them.
Now, let me make sure, we lost the Douglas County crew, but this bunch that we're gonna set up here, these seasonal workers, that's for the citywide.
Right, I mean, all of these guys potentially work all over the city anyway. But the Douglas crew was more limited.
The Douglas County, yeah.
The Douglas County crew was more limited, but when if they come work for us, they can work anywhere.
Would entertain a motion?
Make a motion to accept.
Accept what? Read it.
Read what? Let's say boot camp crews, $10,600.
Would you like?
No, 53,300.
I was just trying to read it.
Read the
Well,
first
the rest
one.
of us use Surface Pro, sir.
Shorten
I
that.
think the city manager has mine.
Would it be to amend the 2018 budget as recommended? Is that?
Yes, but I'd say in the cover sheet, because there's a lot of detail that's being left out in that one little sentence.
There is.
I think it's a motion to approve the budget amendment presented to the council.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the 53,300 is important. That's the number we're improving.
Someone make that in the form of a motion. Let's move along.
I make a motion to approve the 53,300 in revenue adjustment to the budget to be used for this.
To amend the budget.
Amend the budget.
Budget amendment ordinance tendered to the council.
Be nice if we had been presented.
Don't
with-
forget that tendered word, too. That's a legal word.
What we tried to come up with here is just a form template that you can use every time the budget is amended. So you should see a form exactly like this anytime the budget needs to be amended.
I agree with you.
I second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Listen and read that motion back.
I know.
Dare you.
Yeah, okay.
All right, item 3 is a recommendation to authorize me to write a letter to Georgia DOT specifying the option that we choose for the lighting project on exit 24, Highway 61 over I-20. They gave us 3 options. After the discussion Thursday night, it sounded like either one of the 2 GDOT funding sources were acceptable to the council. The one where we paid for it was not. So I would request authorization to write a letter stating that we prefer the quicker of the 2 GDOT solutions, and if not, then the slower one would be acceptable.
And our option was, what was the upfront number?
Well, the estimate that I've been given by the traffic engineer is $1 million to $1.2 million if we pay for the construction ourselves.
Which was not a good option.
No, because it's going to cost us money forever if we have it built, because we're going to pay electricity, maintenance, forever.
Your motion doesn't say anything about writing a letter, but I'll read your motion. I move that we ask GDOT to program the lighting project in the upcoming STIP.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember McDougal, seconded by Councilmember McPherson. Do you understand the motion? Okay. Discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous.
Item number 4 is a discussion of the issue of trucks parking in the industrial park.
And this one, I asked to be put on the agenda for discussion. I've had several residents and folks that work in the industrial park over there complain because what happens is that 18-wheelers are parking on either side of Industrial Boulevard all the way through to Prep Pack, back to all those businesses back in there. Because they get there early in the morning, the gates aren't open, so they have to find a place to sit. So rather than go to the truck stop, they park as close to the gate as they can get. They're sometimes backed up back to back on both sides of the road, and I've got photos to show from one resident that it does present a safety concern because it does narrow those roads, and then you got the 18-wheelers that are going through that area just as normal traffic. In addition to that, some of the drivers have been relieving themselves outside of the trucks, and so the people that are going to work in those businesses over there really don't appreciate that, obviously. So I don't know what the solution is. We put signs up. If you put gravel, because right now it's just mud. I think they even busted one of our sewer lines parking on top of it. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I do think we need to do something from the safety standpoint and from just it looks awful over there. When the trucks aren't there, then you just got mud holes on both sides of the road. So this is more of a discussion issue than it is a request at this point.
Would code enforcement, with us having people working every day of the week, would that be helpful?
The time of day that this is taking place is not working hours, so that's not a solution. Chris and I talked about it today, and the way that I would approach it, I think now, would be to try to get together all the people that run the businesses out there and have a conversation to get a better idea of the consequences of any kind of change in policy, because right now I don't understand how many of the businesses are accepting 24-hour delivery, and how many of them are a 2-shift operation, and how many of them are 1 shift. And I don't want to try to fix one thing and hurt the operations out there of somebody else. So I need to get them together and see where they are. I ran into one of the company's management in a restaurant last week, and there were 4 guys from one of these companies that the mayor mentioned, and I said to them across the restaurant, they were as far away from me as Councilman Best, and I said, "Are y'all having trouble with trucks parking on the street?" Before I could get the question out of my mouth, all 4 of them turned around and said, "Yes." So, I mean, I know it's an issue for this one company, and they're part of the problem too, I think. Or at least the trucks that are delivering to them are. So that's my suggestion to the council, is we try to get everybody together, see exactly what they're thinking and what their issues are, and see if we can come up with something.
Let them help solve the problem.
There's no position out there, no lot or anything they can park in.
There's 5 truck stops within 5 miles of where you're sitting. That's not the only place we have issues with trucks parking overnight. That shouldn't be there. Walmart has those problems. Hardee's has those problems. And it's not just the problem of parking overnight. There's some other activities that are happening there as well. I don't know that maybe an ordinance of some type that says trucks park in designated areas only. I agree that it's tearing the roads up in Industrial Park. I think maybe you're talking to those folks maybe after it's all said and done, they may have to go up on some taxes they pay to repave the roads if they continue to allow it. But I agree with the mayor. There's, it's a no-win situation for the city versus the industrial park. But we got to do something to stop the erosion there and the ability for these guys parking where they want to.
So, Tom, you understand what we're looking for here. So I'm confident that you will come back to us with a logical solution to the problem that works for everybody.
All right, the next item is number 5, a discussion of the Gateway landscaping and a proposal from Tommy McLeod.
Okay, and I asked this to be placed on the agenda as well. The Gateway grant came about several years ago, thanks to Mr. Gaston, helped us at the state level get that money for the landscaping up there, and specifically, these are the landscapes. Are y'all looking at photos? Oh, Lord, I hope not. I see people looking at the screen. It looks awful. These are the landscaped areas in front of, on Highway 61, between 61 and CVS, and between 61 and Walgreens. And it kind of goes up just a little bit further, but that's the biggest part of it. They were built with grant money. They were installed by Tommy McLeod, who's a local property owner here and also a local businessman who owns a landscaping company. To whatever fault, it's not my place to blame fault or put fault on anybody's doorsteps. I'm just saying they look awful right now, and that's where a lot of people that come off the highway. We just had Talladega weekend this past weekend. There's thousands of people got off on Highway 61 right there. That's an embarrassment. So Mr. McLeod, at my request, put together a proposal to come back in to take out the mulch. I'm going to use that. It wasn't mulch. That's tree bark from the landfill that had bags, plastic bags, and everything else in it. To replace that, to go back to edge all those beds, to remove the larger weeds, to spray them with Roundup, and also a pre-emergent to keep anything from coming back up. And then he's also, we are owed, as I understand it, between 600, I think it's almost 700 plants from the original deal that died, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And so that would include, well, it's on here, 675 to 700 purple coneflowers, which are perennials, will come up every year. He said it's going to take him about 2 or 3 weeks to finish that. This is not something that you can just go out in a couple of days to do, and it's not something really we can do with inmates, as we found out. So, you know, I'm asking the council consider this. There is not 3 bids on it because it's hard to bid anything like this, but council can certainly choose to do. I think there's how much money is budgeted for this? Charlie, you told me $60,000 was budgeted, and this is $13,941.96.
It's only for a small area, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not for the whole I-20 exit 24 corridor.
This is for the Gateway project.
2 sides of 61 at 78.
That's what it says, down the 78 intersection.
Not the whole.
Right. This is the Gateway project, which is the landscaped area that's kind of raised up. It's hard to see now, but
we need to address the whole area from 20 down. Eventually.
For $60,000.
No. Eventually.
My issue here is we can plan all we want. Unless the good Lord takes a liking to us and gives us rain every 3rd day, it's going to go away.
well, the plants are already in place. What the majority of this is just to clean up what has been left to go into disrepair. The only thing that would need watering would be the 700 purple coneflowers until they're established. The plant's already there.
If we spend $14,000, is this going to fix the problem from now on, or is it going to once again come out? So we
no more than planting a garden.
No, we have to
fixes the problem with the planet.
Hasn't this been addressed before? I don't remember the details on it. It was before I was on here, but seems like we spent a lot of money over there already and didn't get anything for it.
Well, we did get something for it, and I know the details of the project, so I'd like to answer that. Mr. McLeod entered into a contract with the city after I left to come in and basically fulfill the landscape plan that was developed. He came in, he plowed the area, he sprayed it, killed all the weeds, came in, he did everything a landscaper should do. And he came in and plowed the area up, he improved the soil with fertilizer and soil amendments, he come in and planted the shrubs, the few trees, there's some crepe myrtles in the landscape. He then came in and put the pine straw in, he edged all the beds like you're supposed to as a landscaper, and fertilized. And that's when I started coming back to council meetings before I became mayor. And he got a kind of a bad rap, and I'm going to tell you, because I've had a lot of experience in landscaping. The council had questions about weed seed being planted, and because the weeds started coming up almost immediately after he finished, his contract ended. He actually extended the time that he was going over and watering it through the end of May, as I recall. And so he sent the city a letter. The city should have that on file. It says that as of May the 30th, I think was the date, I will no longer maintain this. On June the 1st, it began to go downhill. There was no weed seed planted. There's no such thing as weed seed. But anytime you improve the ground, you water the ground, you fertilize the ground, you're going to get weeds. The weeds are already there. They're just going to sprout and grow up. So what happened was our mowing crews were going out and mowing around the islands, which gave the appearance that everything inside the island was growing at a faster rate. Well, it was, because you wasn't cutting it. Nobody was spraying it. Nobody was weeding it. So it fell into disrepair, which brings us to where we are now.
Do we have an ongoing disagreement? Because you here you say he owes us 600 plants.
Yeah, well, I didn't.
Can't write it someone else?
I wasn't there, but the discussion that I had with Tommy was that through no fault of his own, when the purple coneflowers were planted, they appear to be weeds. If you know what plants look like, they look like weeds. So when the crews went out to spray Roundup, they inadvertently sprayed the purple coneflowers as well. Add to that the fact that some of the purple coneflowers from the distributor were bad, and he knows that. And he has said, look, I'm not sure if, some of it's my fault or not his fault, but the grower's fault. And some of it's this spray that the mist that was on the plants. Again, I wasn't there. Charlie, I don't know if you can refute that or say that's true or false. I'm just telling you what he said. I know that we're owed 600, 700, perennials for those beds. I know that they're in bad shape. I wish I could tell you, and I wish our city manager could say, we can save $13,000, and we can go over there and do this ourselves. And if you feel like we can, then that's money well spent. And if you feel like we need to bid this out, then I'm for that too. I just am to a point where I want our city to look good again. And so that's...
We can spend $14,000, but how long is it going to last us, and is it going to be just like it is now later on?
Anytime
you
you
really have a good plan as far as maintenance goes.
If you remember my comments Thursday, I think we need a crew that specializes in intensive landscapes in this city. Every park that we have has a planter at the sign. I don't think we've planted those signs. And I know when I was here, we didn't plant them either when I was the director, because we just didn't have the staff to do it. We have, flower baskets downtown down here, and I know y'all work hard to get folks to adopt those and to take care of them. We have, intensive landscapes that require, pre-emergent and fertilizers and watering and weeding and all those things. To answer your question, it will be back in that same shape in 6 months if somebody doesn't pick it up and take care of it.
We have a plan for the future on it.
Right.
It makes no sense.
I'm out
to
of
have
gas.
a
I'm looking for
gateway.
gas right now, and then we'll figure out how we're going to improve gas mileage.
It makes no sense to have gotten them, have them there, and not take care of them. The only thing I want done is I want them to make it as low maintenance as possible. If that screen, I don't know how it works for them, but I know in my yard I do certain things that prohibit weed growth, including in the beds. Now, I don't know how to do professional landscape. I have a feeling that they do. I just want it to be as low maintenance. I know that means I still got to go in, spray at certain times, and whatever
Water
they
it.
put down that inhibits the weed growth to make it easier to maintain. That's
He's putting down a pre-emergent herbicide called Bayland, which is the industry standard for but it's only good for a limited amount of time. And you know, most pre-emergence are only good for a 6-month period. The other problem with pre-emergence is it only kills the weeds that are not sprouted. It creates a barrier in the ground that the weeds won't go through. So, you know, it's not a fail-safe. Someone is still going to have to go up there with Roundup and spray the weeds and pull weeds that come up periodically in that landscape. And that's, you know, that's just when you build an intensive landscape, you know, there's a certain amount of maintenance that goes along with that.
I doubt there's anybody up here who doesn't want these welcome areas to look really good. I'm concerned about spending this money. We don't have other bids, but even if we got other bids, we don't have a plan as the city to take care of this stuff. And I almost feel like in 6 months we're going to be sitting up here again talking about how crappy it looks down there, and can we spend another $14,000 to make it look good for 6 months?
Do we have a plan in the future budget for maintenance, landscaping? Okay, landscaping maintenance.
That's true.
Next. I did my part.
All right, the next item is a discussion of the grant that we talked about Thursday night from Norfolk Southern to the police department, I believe, for body cameras. And the mayor's going to give us some more details.
We, as you know, that's an ongoing battle that I've had with Norfolk Southern since I became mayor, was the parking on tracks downtown for extended amounts of time. By all accounts, most accounts, that has improved. I did get one of the council members told me tonight that there was a train crossing or blocking the track today for several hours. But I'll just reiterate, I mean, people let me know on Facebook, and I've got the number from the guy from Norfolk Southern to call. Now, that we're not going to stop trains from parking on side tracks in Villa Rica. That's what side tracks are for. But they're not supposed to sit there for extended amounts of time. And that, you know, I don't even want to put a number on that, but anything more than about an hour is an extended amount of time, in my opinion. And so through a series of complaints that I've lodged with this individual about trains blocking those tracks, and the fact that they tore up all of our railroad crossings, and in my opinion did a very lousy job of fixing those temporarily, and then they waited months and months and months to fix them. At the same time, I was watching every city around us, east and west, get theirs finished, and so I was, you know, upset, obviously, and he knew that, and so he said, "Is there anything that I can do to improve our relationship with Villa Rica?" And he does. Let me say this: since I've been with the city, for all the time that I've been with the city, this is the most responsive person that we have ever had with Norfolk Southern. He said, "Is there anything I can do?" I said, "Well, I mean, you know, there's things we can do," and he said, "Look, I've got a grant. It's a safety grant, and it's not to exceed $5,000, and it can go to your fire department or to your police department." I said, "Well, that's easy. We don't have a fire department." So I got with Chief Mansour and Captain Parker, and they put together a proposal which we sent to Norfolk Southern last week. It was $4,009, right at good job. It was it ate every bit of that $5,000 up. But what we're going to be able to do as a result of that is buy body cams for the officers that we have that did not have body cams. How many body cams is it, Captain Parker? So, you know, that's money, those are body cams and cameras in our cars that our patrol officers did not have in the past. So I would fully expect that when we get the grant that I would have our representative from Norfolk Southern come and be a part of that, and he wants the person from the Southeastern District to be here as well. But I wanted to let you know, in case you heard, that was in the mix and will be coming our way. So. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is a discussion of GDOT transportation projects. Can I start on this one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got a list developing of items that you guys are talking about, that residents are talking about, that I've organized by in the congestion, safety, you know, construction, maintenance, that kind of thing. The big ones are almost related to the bypass. So what we discovered in talking to GDOT is even though the bypass funding has been pushed, there's a possibility that we could still have them construct a mini roundabout at Punkintown and 61, which is a congestion problem, and at Rockmart and 101 Industrial, which is a congestion problem. What we don't have is we don't have any other GDOT design going on, for instance, at Industrial Boulevard and Industrial Court, which is a congestion problem and a tough turn. We don't have a solution for the top of the ramp coming up from 78 onto Liberty Mirror Lake Boulevard. So and on and on. I mean, there are several places where we have congestion that we don't have solutions in the works. The two things that are happening right now are the pedestrian improvements at Hickory Level and 61. And I also understand that GDOT has a consulting firm looking at 61 and 78 to see if there's a way to make improvements to the throughput there. So those are the things that I know that GDOT is either working on or that we're talking about. So the most imminent of those, other than the things that GDOT themselves are working on, like Hickory Level 61, is the Punkintown 61 mini roundabout. There's two things that we have to do. We have to acquire temporary easements for them to work in while they're doing the construction, and we have to relocate some utilities. So the city's working on that. We'll be bringing you something eventually for your approval to authorize some money for that utility relocation. And at that point, GDOT intends to build a mini roundabout there as a quick response project, which means it's 100% funded by GDOT, but we have to do the utility relocation. So that's where we stand with those projects. So when we meet with GDOT next time on the Carroll side, it looks to me like what we're trying to get them to do is to start programming the design of both of the mini roundabouts on Industrial. One at Industrial Court and one at the stop sign at Rockmart, where 101 turns and goes northwest. So questions on any of that? That's what I know about those projects.
Yep. So the Punkintown Road and 61 roundabout, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, they came to us and talked to us about that being a quick response project and them funding the whole thing. My understanding at the time was that we weren't able to get an easement to do that, not this construction easement. Are we only being held up by a construction easement as opposed to a property easement?
No, I'm not aware that we're being held up. I mean, they have tendered to us the design plans, and we've created the easements. We just never have gone out to actually get them signed.
That is news to me. I thought we were being held up. I wanted that done last year.
We were told it was going to happen, and we were told it wasn't going to happen. Then it was maybe going to happen, then it wasn't going to happen.
It's not going to happen until we do the utility relocation. We've got a 10-inch water line through that intersection.
So whoever or whatever we have to get easements from, we can now get, because we were told we couldn't get it, and that's why it couldn't happen.
If the plans are the same now as they were then, and I mean, if they're the same, the easements are ready to get signed.
So I think the message is move forward on that with all deliberate speed.
All right, and Pete, did you have a chance to talk to Carter Sloop about getting them out here on any of these small design projects?
I was scheduled to meet with them in Athens after a doctor's appointment. Unfortunately, the medication that the doctor's office gave me prevented me from following through on that. So I am meeting with them tomorrow at 1:30 at my office.
Good.
I only have one question. At Industrial and Rockmart, where the bypass is supposed to go, but now they're talking about doing a mini one there also, how does that play into the long-term plan of?
So the mini one is like 80 feet in diameter, and the full one is like 120 minimum to maximum. So they would build the small one now, and then when we get to the bypass, they would put in the big one.
Which means they'd come in and tear up what they did and then put in a big one?
They'd expand it.
That sounds better.
But yeah, I mean, there'd be some reconstruction. Otherwise, we'd have to pay for the big one now. The mini one we get on there next.
Tom, were you here when we had the meeting over at Powell Park and they unveiled the, okay, so you know there's concern from the property owners in Reed Plantation, so I just want to make sure we, consider that.
Is there any consideration about 3-lane traffic on Industrial Boulevard from 78 to 101?
There is not a DOT plan for widening that I have been told of.
Well, thinking in the future, and how far in the future, I don't know, but thinking in the future, if we do a bypass, the north bypass, to get folks, truckers, on I-20, it's almost imperative. If there's a turn lane for the trucks to turn in, traffic jam is not the word for it.
Right, there, in the bypass plan, there are changes to Industrial Boulevard, but not down to 78, not the whole length of it, only part way down, where they were adding a lane.
I'd venture to say there's probably a third of it already 3-lane or turn lane, if you add all of them together.
I think the problem is going to be from the apartments to the railroad tracks, because from the railroad tracks back to 101, it has an exceptionally wide right-of-way.
Well, that's the same right-of-way for 61.
So,
but after you cross the railroad track,
that possibility is probably there.
They have a turn lane to go into the industrial park, but that's the last one. So there's nothing else from there all the way to 101. And the trucks, well, when they start coming off 61 to turn right to come that way, it's just going to be on and on and on. And at least you'd have some storage in the turn lane to be able to turn to get in industrial. But we're still having problems with people coming off of 20 going across 78. Even when they were doing the makeover of the railroad track, there were 37 trucks from the railroad track to 78. And that was just about 9:30 in the morning.
On a different subject, since we're talking about Industrial Boulevard, is there any way we can put a sign out where Gold Dust Park is, identifying that that's Gold Dust Park, so people don't
No.
look for it?
No.
Absolutely no
We
way.
had to move the sign back several years ago because it was on DOT property. They came in and made everybody on Industrial Boulevard move signs back. That sign that's sitting in Gold Dust Park is within 20 feet of their right-of-way.
And you pass the road long before you see the sign.
Well, we were told that, right? That was a discussion, and that's a whole monument-type sign. They wouldn't even let us put some sort of wayfinding sign that, I mean, I've lived here 10 years and I still have to watch for where to turn. Imagine the people trying to find that. They can't even find our recreation center. You can't see that it's coming up. There's nothing to tell you that it's there. So, anyway. We'll work on that on the rec committee.
Any other comments about the status of GDOT transportation projects? Tab I, executive session. Mr. Mecklin?
Yep. Just to state what the motion should be, somebody will make a motion, and that is to go into executive session for the 3 written purposes set forth in the agenda.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to go into executive session for the three purposes listed on the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? We are in executive session.
Yeah, I suspect that'll be where everybody runs to.